Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 18 of What If Jackie Chan was in W.I.T.C.H. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. The Shadow Eaters. The group consisting of Jackie, Will, Jade, Irma, Haylin, Terani, Cornelia, Uncle, and Caleb rode on a motorboat that Jackie was steering through the bayou of the southern region of the United States toward their destination. Out of all the places on Earth we get to go to in this whole world tour thing, we just had to end up in a swamp. Cornelia complained as she swatted away several bugs that flew around her. It's not a swamp, Cornelia. It's a bayou. Terani explained. A swamp is a piece of wet ground, while a bayou is basically a still or slow-moving river. Potato. The blonde dismissed. They both have way too many bugs. She tried to swat away several more insects that swarmed around her, with the others having a similar predicament. Girls, please focus. Jackie told them. If the Hanafuda cards are correct, then the next Oni mask has gotta be there. Jade pointed to a shack that was built on the water. I don't see any sign of the enemy. Caleb said as he looked in all directions with his binoculars. But that doesn't mean they won't show up. Oh, this is totally the worst place for the bad guys to show up. Irma said. We're in a swamp, and I'm the water guardian. Total home field advantage. Don't get cocky. This is the 8th mask out of 9. Will said. We've already captured 7. They're going to get desperate to try and get these last 2, so let's be on guard. Yeah, I'll feel a lot more comfortable when we actually get the mask and lock it up in section 13. Terani agreed. Where is card indicating mask removal ingredient? Uncle asked. I got it. Haylin held the card up in her hand, only for a gust of wind to blow it out of her hand, much to everyone's shock as Jackie stopped the boat. Iya! Uncle exclaimed. Grab it! Quick somebody grab it! Cornelia shouted as everyone stood up to try and grab the card as it began to fly away, but Haylin used her control over air to pull the card back toward them, only for another gust of wind to blow it over them and land on the water on the port side of their boat, much to their relief. Oh man, that was way too close. Haylin said as she tried to reach for the card, only for an alligator to suddenly shoot itself out with an open mouth, swallowing the card whole before sinking back into the river. Everyone had the same wide-eyed and jaw-dropped expression over what had just happened. Haylin. Jade began. You saw what the ingredient on the card was, right? The only response Haylin gave was a slight nervous laugh with a guilty shrug. That would be, no. Cornelia sulked, causing everyone to look either annoyed or disappointed. Jackie sighed. There is nothing we can do about it now. Let us just get the mask and leave immediately. He started the boat back up and drove it toward the dock on the shack before shutting off the engine to park it at the dock. I'm really sorry guys. Haylin winced as they all got off. Forget it, crap happens. Will said. We'll just have to make sure nobody wears the mask this time. Oh right, because that's worked out so well the past 7 times. Irma said sarcastically as they made their way toward the shack and stepped inside. The interior of the hut caused Uncle and even Caleb to gasp as it looked like the inside of a voodoo doctor's office. It had odd-looking candles, even one that appeared to be attached to a skull, voodoo dolls with pins already in them, lizard pelts, carpets, and drapes with stars on them, and symbols with Illuminati eyes. Wah, what is this place? Caleb exclaimed, already grabbing the hilt of his katana. Dark magic resides here, Uncle had a similar feeling. Calm down guys, they're just props. Terani told them. None of this stuff is real. But, I think I might have seen it before. Haylin looked around. Before she and Jade both gasped as they came to the same realization. We're in Miss Kimber's psychic shack. Haylin and Jade both exclaimed as they looked toward each other excitingly. Whoa, no way. Seriously. Will exclaimed as the other girls looked more than a little excited too. Miss who, psychic what? Jackie asked. How do you not know her? Cornelia questioned as she pointed toward a self-portrait of the aforementioned woman. Miss Kimber. From the psychic hotline. She's like totally the most popular psychic on TV, duh. Irma pointed out. Think she might let us get an autograph? Jade asked. What is a psychic? Caleb asked. We don't have any of that in Meridian. A psychic is usually someone who has the ability to read the minds of others, or even their souls. Terani explained. Sometimes they can even see the future. Uncle however gave a skeptic scoff. No one can see future. All psychics are phonies. A new voice finished as a dark-skinned woman with a purple robe stepped out from a separate room, which had a television camera and other similar pieces of equipment inside. I knew you were going to say that. Oh Miss Kimber. It is so cool to meet you. Lin shook her hand enthusiastically. I am my biggest fan. I knew you were going to say that, little Lin. She finished, causing Lin to gasp with an awestruck expression. You know my name. Oh, I know much more than that. She reached into her robe to pull out a total of 9 dolls that represented the whole group. What stuck out even more were the dolls of Jade, Will, Irma, Terani, Cornelia, and Lin, appeared to be of the 6 girls in their respective guardian forms. Whoa, she's good. Jade pointed out. She knew we were coming. Caleb looked in surprise. A cheap trick. Uncle dismissed as he remained skeptical. Fortune teller saw us approach. He got a good look at the dolls. But she is very skilled doll maker. You've gone up against dragons, demons, evil wizards, shapeshifters, and all sorts of monsters, but you're skeptical when it comes to psychics. How does that make sense? Cornelia questioned the old man. Wait a second, Terani got a good look at the dolls. Aren't those? Oh, you don't have to play coy with me. Miss Kimber said. You 6 young ladies are magic guardians, armed with elemental powers and sworn to fight the forces of darkness. And said forces of darkness are racing you to claim one of these. She walked over to a shelf and showed the Oni mask she had in her possession. This mask was a light and faded yellow color with orange eyebrows and a single horn on its forehead. You really know about us? Will asked in awe. How could you have known this? Jackie asked, more than a little surprised. Boys not too quick on the update, huh? Miss Kimber asked the girls briefly. I'm psychic, hun. Man, it must be true if you know we got kick-ass magic powers. Irma said. Oh, I have got so many questions I want to ask you right now. What are the answers for my next math test? How do I get Martin to stop bugging me? What's the answer to the universe? And don't say it's 42. Bigger things to worry about right now. Caleb pointed out. If you can really see the future and you know about our mission, then you know why we have to take this mask. He spoke. Oh, I know why you have to take it, sugar. Miss Kimber confirmed. But the stars do not say you take it, he does. She pulled out another doll, this one of a certain buff man, still bearing the appearance of his dark Kai warrior form. Hawk Fu. All except Uncle exclaimed. God, I hope not. Will gulped. Hey, stars do not talk. Uncle reaffirmed. So, that is the mask. Everyone turned toward the door to see the dark Kai warrior, Hawk Fu, enter the shack, much to everyone's shock. Destined for my face. Will, time to Shazam up. Jade exclaimed. Not needing to be told twice, the redhead pulled out the heart of Kandrakar and said the magic words. Guardians unite. With one flash transformation, the 6 girls of the group had transformed into J-Witch once more. Miss Kimber looked with a smirk and crossed arms. Every bit as flashy as I expected. Immediately, Jade, Irma, Lin, and Terani combined their powers into a powerful surge of shadow, water, air, and fire that blasted Hawk Fu out of the shack and sent him flying through the air. Though he did flip while airborne to land on his feet in the water. Sorry, we will fix the damage later, thank you. Jackie told Miss Kimber as he took the Oni mask and fled with Caleb, Uncle, and the girls. I knew he was going to say that, too. Miss Kimber said aloud. However, they didn't make it very far outside as they found their path blocked by Cedric, in his human form, and Daolan Wang. Thank you for retrieving the mask for us, Guardians. Cedric smirked. We'll be taking it now. Wang added. How about you take this instead? Cornelia channeled her earth power into the wood on the dock to shake it before exploding the planks the villainous duo were under to send them both flying. Jackie, Caleb, you guys take the mask and go. We'll hold them off. Will stated. What? We can't just leave. Caleb tried to protest. Will's right, we don't have the removal ingredient. Terani agreed. We gotta keep that mask off anyone's face no matter what. They're right, Caleb, we have to go. Even Jackie agreed. Alright, Caleb said with reluctance as he and Jackie boarded the motorboat. Jackie was quick to start it up as they drove away. Suddenly, the water in the bayou exploded as Cedric emerged in his massive humanoid serpent form, with Daolon Wong standing on his shoulder to face the 6 guardians hovering over them. "We do not have time for this," Cedric hissed. "Warrior, with me," he called to Hawk Fu as Daolon Wong aimed his staff at the water to freeze a solid patch of it and allow him to stand up. Hawk Fu had also appeared as he leapt from his previous spot to cling to Cedric's back and swim after the motorboat. "Jade, Irma, Hey Lin, you guys and I will help Jackie and Caleb. Will instructed. Cornelia, Terani, you take Wong." Everyone nodded as the Shadow, Water, and Air Guardians joined their leader, leaving those of Earth and Fire to face Daolon Wong. Terani attacked first with a stream of fire, which Wong met with a stream of his own dark magic, both attacks colliding and pressed against each other. Cornelia then directed the ground underneath the water, and the ice patch Wong was standing on, to shoot up in the form of a large mound. However, as Wong flew, he waved his scepter to create a large demonic-looking dragonfly to ride on as he shot it downward to face the 2 guardians. Meanwhile, as Jackie continued to steer the motorboat, Caleb glanced behind them to see the pursuing Cedric with Hawk Fu riding on top. "Faster Jackie, they're gaining on us." "I am going as fast as I can," Jackie stated. However, neither Cedric nor Hawk Fu appeared to notice the 4 guardians flying over them. Hey Lin and Irma nodded to each other as the latter aimed her control over water directly in front of Cedric to block his path with a large wall of water, while Hey Lin spun her arms around to create a tornado around him in an attempt to trap him. Cedric roared in fury. "Get the mask," he commanded Hawk Fu, who leapt from his back and up above the tornado straight toward the motorboat, having landed right on it. Caleb quickly drew his katana to face Hawk Fu and was later joined by Will and Jade, both taking their respective combat stances as Hawk Fu attacked. At the same time, Uncle remained in Miss Kimber's shack, crouching over a small cauldron on the floor as he attempted to prepare a mask removal spell. "And what do you think you're whipping up, Sugar?" Miss Kimber asked. "If you can truly see future, you would know Uncle is devising removal spell in case mask is worn," Uncle said before sighing. "Only, Uncle must learn of missing key ingredient." Miss Kimber gave something of a dramatic gasp. "You hear that? The stars are talking, and they say you can have the answer you seek revealed by yours truly, for only $9.95 a minute." Uncle gave a gasp of his own before pointing accusingly toward her. "You're fraud and money grubber." Back outside, Wong and his demonic dragonfly flew over the canopy as Terani and Cornelia gave pursuit, the former throwing a multitude of fireballs at the enemy, while Wong raised a dark magic shield over himself and his insectoid steed for protection before the dragonfly itself spat some kind of substance towards the girls, who flew away to avoid it as it hit a tree, which quickly began to melt away. "Hey, that's not fair," Terani exclaimed. "Dragonflies don't have any acidic spit. I really hate bugs." Cornelia appeared to have enough of as she directed her control of the earth over the trees directly under Wong's dragonfly before they shot a series of branches up like spikes to impale and skewer the massive insect in all places, the force of the impact sending Wong flying off his steed. At the same time, Cedric continued to roar furiously as he ripped a tree from its base and threw it at the 2 guardians he was facing. Hey Lin quickly compressed a large air disc, using it as a makeshift defense to slice the tree in half as both halves flew past her and Irma. But this appeared to leave them open for Cedric to smack his tail at both of them to send them crashing towards the water. Irma skidded for a bit before coming to a stop. She didn't have time to rest hover as she spotted several alligators coming directly at her. Acting on instinct, Irma shot herself into the air to avoid the deadly jaws of the aquatic predators. Sorry boys, but I'm not on the menu," Irma said to the alligators that actually growled at her in response. However, an idea soon came to her. "But I know someone who is." Hey Lin gave a yelp as Cedric grabbed her by the throat with his tail and slammed her into a tree. He sneered directly to her face before he heard a whistle. "Hey, Cedric." He turned around at the sound of Irma's voice calling him as she flew toward him, directing a massive wave of water below her, which just so happened to carry over a dozen alligators inside. "You got some long-distant cousins who wanna see you. Bon appetit, boys." She shot the wave at Cedric, the force of the impact sending him skidding and crashing through the water of the bayou. Cedric shot himself out of the water but was quickly swarmed by multiple alligators as they bit at him from all directions and all over his body. "Get off of me!" He tried to swat and throw the alligators away. "Get your fiddly claws off me!" This only resulted in Cedric getting his arms bitten as the alligators appeared to overwhelm him and pull him underwater, where he continued to try and fight them off. Lin couldn't help but wince. "Ouch, that's kinda brutal." Irma didn't appear to feel as guilty, however. "Hey," Jackie said to use the environment to our advantage. Meanwhile, Will threw out a punch, Caleb sliced his katana, and even Jade slashed with her shadow claws. All three tried to attack Hawkfu at once, but he braced his arms to take the attack before throwing them out to send all three of them flying off the motorboat before reaching toward Jackie, who was forced to stop steering the boat, while it continued to run as he tried to keep the mask away from Hawkfu, moving as quick and agile as humanly possible to keep his Dark Kai-enhanced enemy from so much as touching him. Fortunately, Will and Jade stabilized themselves in the air as the former caught Caleb before they flew back down to catch the out-of-control motorboat, causing it to turn around and go back the way it came. Jade generated a long shadow whip before throwing it out to ensnare Hawkfu around the throat as he grabbed Jackie by his shirt. This forced Hawkfu to let Jackie go briefly as he tried to regain control of the boat, but Hawkfu escaped the binding to grab Jackie again and tried to take the mask, accidentally causing him to drop the mask, but Will and Caleb slammed into Hawkfu before Jade joined as all three tried to pin him down. "Don't let him get the mask," Will exclaimed. "Wait, who is steering?" Jackie asked nervously, causing all four of them to stop fighting as they not only saw that nobody was steering the boat, but they also saw what they were about to crash into. "Uh-oh," Will, Jade, Caleb, and Hawkfu all gulped at the same time. "And here is prediction for you, I see piece of Uncle in your future." Uncle pointed toward Miss Kimber. "Whenever you're done hun, you're gonna wanna scooch a tad to the left," she advised. Uncle crossed his arms stubbornly at first, but when he heard the sound of an approaching motorboat, he quickly stood up and moved toward the left, just as the out-of-control motorboat Jackie, Will, Jade, Caleb, and Hawkfu all rode on crashed straight through the shack and even further across the water before reaching land, where it skidded for a bit before crashing onto a tree trunk, finally stopping it and sending everyone flying in multiple directions, landing roughly on the mud. "Hey, talk about a mudslide." Jade tried to joke as she, Caleb, Jackie, and Will pulled themselves up, all of them covered in mud. Hawkfu was likewise also covered in mud as he tried to shake off the dizziness. A familiar old man's screams echoed through the sky as Daolan Wang finally fell down and crashed into the mud as well, close to Hawkfu, and he wasn't the only one. Cedric even emerged from the bayou's bank, shaking off as many alligators as he could before pulling himself up onto land, weakly crawling across the mud. His whole body was covered in bleeding bite marks as he appeared well out of breath. The other four guardians soon joined their friends. "Hey, we saw the boat crash. Is everyone alright?" Terani asked urgently. "A little dirty and dizzy, but we'll survive," Caleb assured as he wiped some mud from his face. "Why is Cedric covered in bite marks and blood?" Jackie asked, seeing the state the large shapeshifter was in. "Oh, I sicked a bunch of alligators on him," Irma said proudly. "Nice." Jade pointed a finger of approval toward her friend. "Yeah, that's great and all, but where's the mask?" Cornelia questioned. Hawkfu stood up straight, wiping the mud off his entire body to reveal that said Oni mask was already fused to his face. His own blue Dark Kai markings turned pitch black, just like when Ratso wore the second mask, and his voice sounded deeper and far more demonic. At last, Hawkfu sneered, much to the horror of the heroes. "Aw crap," Will muttered. "Guy's already like Superman charged as a Dark Kai warrior, now he's got Oni strength on top of that." Irma questioned. "Why do I have a feeling it's gonna be way worse than when Ratso had his mask?" Lin winced, not even bothering to conceal the terror in her voice. Wang and Cedric both saw this as well as they chuckled evilly. "To think, the mask would now fall onto my strongest warrior." Wang smiled with malevolence as he and Cedric both turned toward the heroes. And according to Tarakudo, this particular mask can summon arguably the most dangerous and powerful tribe of Shotokan yet, even more terrifying than those controlled by Ikazuki. Cedric said to them as his sneer only grew. "And now Chan and Guardians, prepare to face true horror. Oni Hawkfu needed no help to call upon the darkness within." Demon summons ninja army. Everyone braced themselves as the Shotokan emerged from the mud, like zombies rising from the grave. They didn't appear to have any limbs whatsoever and appeared to have gray V-shaped visors for eyes, and were each only an inch tall. What? Caleb looked in surprise, while the girls and Jackie each had their own wide-eyed expressions over the tiny Shotokan, but none appeared more shocked, or mortified, than the villainous trio. What? Cedric stuttered. How? They. Why are? Wong also stuttered. Why are they, so, even Oni Hakfu was stuttering. So cute. Hey Lin gushed before Jade, Irma, and Cornelia busted out laughing. Oh, that is just priceless. Cornelia laughed. Most feared tribe of Shotokan, my butt. This is funnier than when Uriah got a mask stuck to his ass. Irma also laughed. You guys got a dud. Lucky us. Jade laughed the hardest. Cedric and Wong both growled in frustration, but none appeared more frustrated than Hakfu himself as he gave a demonic and bone-chilling roar that silenced all forms of laughter. Demon compensates for inferior ninja army. He shouted as he leapt into the air and raised both his fists to slam them into the ground in front of the heroes, creating a powerful shockwave that was almost equivalent to an earthquake. The shockwave was so powerful, it created a crater upon impact, leveled most of the trees in a 5-meter radius, and sent the heroes flying back in all directions. Cedric roared in rage. What an absolute waste of time. We've finally retrieved an Oni mask, only to get this. He gestured to the tiny Shotokan gathered around them. How do you think I feel? Oni Hakfu questioned. They're supposed to be my ninjas. Wong appeared equally frustrated but seemed capable of restraining himself. Well, at the very least, our warrior is far stronger now than he was before. So, I would say this is still something of a victory. Let us hope Prince Phobos feels the same way. Cedric hissed as Wong waved his scepter, causing all three of them to vanish along with most of the tiny Shotokan. The Guardians, minus Cornelia, flew from their respective crash sites towards what was left of Miss Kimber's shack. Irma carried Jackie while Jade carried Caleb as they sat down on the docks just as Uncle and Miss Kimber both walked outside. Miss Kimber, we're really sorry about your place. We'll apologize. We can make some calls and have some friends help to repair. Jackie offered, hopping section 13 could get this taken care of. Don't worry about it, hun. Miss Kimber waved off. I have enough money and insurance to cover this, as well as a backup shack just in case. You really thought that far ahead? Caleb asked. What, did you know this was going to happen? Miss Kimber looked at him with a partially annoyed expression. Psychic, remember. Terani reminded the young rebel. Oh, right. Where is Mask? The elderly Kai wizard questioned. Hakfu has it, uncle. Jackie replied. On the plus side, his Shotokan are total duds. They're like microscopic, Irma said. But on the downside, he's like way stronger than he was before. Jade added. He was like Superman before as a Dark Kai warrior, but with an Oni mask he's like Gamma charged up. Like if Superman were to become the Hulk. Lin tried to describe it as best she could. Where is Cornelia? Uncle asked upon seeing they were one guardian short. Right here. The blonde flew down with a mud ball in her hand. I went back to that mud hole, and look what I got. She showed them the mud ball, which she controlled with her earth magic, to keep a tiny Shotokan that was left behind trapped. Uncle gave a slight gasp. Tiny Shotokan. Must have got left behind. Terani assumed. And you captured it? Lin asked. Well, if we don't have the card with the removal ingredient, maybe we could find something from this little guy. Cornelia said. Jackie looked with an impressed smile. That is a good idea, well done Cornelia. Yeah, nice work. Caleb complimented, causing Cornelia to blush from both their praise as the other guardians seemed to nod and smile with approval and congratulations as well. Way to use your brain for once. Jade cracked. Thanks guys, Cornelia then turned to Jade with a glare. Hey, what do you mean, for once? Heatherfield, Uncle's rare finds. It was rather late at night as Alchemy finished reading the chapter of a spell book. The girl gave a yawn as she rubbed her eyes. So, this turns you into frogs? She asked tiredly as Toru sat across from her. Yes, but I believe that is enough for tonight. Toru told her. Really? Alchemy gave another yawn before looking at the clock to see how late it really was. Wow, no idea. But I am glad to know you're so interested in studying Kai magic. Toru told her. Still, you got to learn to pace yourself. I just wanna help as much as I can, Alchemy said, her eyelids already feeling rather heavy. And that's sweet of you. Yanlin also walked in with a tray that had 2 glasses of milk and a bowl of chocolate chip cookies. But if you push yourself too hard, you risk burning yourself out. Trust me, I've seen it before. So, do yourself a favor and get some sleep after you have a sweet little snack. Thanks Miss Lin. Alchemy smiled as she reached for a cookie and dipped it in her glass, with Toru doing the same. Milk and Toru. Research. Uncle's loud voice called out as he walked into the shop, suddenly waking up Alchemy while Toru accidentally crushed the cookie in his hand. Crumbs. Toru sulked. Wow, you guys got back late. Alchemy noted as Jackie, Caleb, and the girls all walked inside, all of them looking ready to fall asleep where they stood. It was a long flight, and we're all tired. Will grumbled. I already called all your parents and told them you would be spending the night here, and I would help supervise. Yan Lin told the girls. Which isn't technically a lie this time. Thanks Grandma, hey Lin yawned. I'll roll out the extra futons, but some of you girls may have to share. Jackie said. That's fine with me. Irma didn't seem to care at this point, they were all so tired. What about you, Caleb? Cornelia asked as the young rebel already sat down on a rocking chair. I can manage here for the night. Caleb said as he already had his eyes closed. Whatever, good night everyone. Jade yawned as the girls followed Jackie upstairs. Be careful with the mini-con in there, we don't know what it is, Terani tiredly said as she was the last one to leave. Mini-con? Toru and Alchemy asked simultaneously. Jin, what happened out there? Yan Lin asked him, who put down a covered jar on the counter. Hakfu has Oni mask. Uncle explained. We lost card containing key ingredient, but we have done something rather monumental. Never before have we captured a Shotokan. He removed the cloth to reveal the mini-con they captured earlier. That's a Shotokan. Alchemy looked in surprise. It is, so cute. Even Toru gushed at it, with Alchemy following along. Ah, who's a cute little minion of darkness? You are. Yes, you are. Alchemy gushed. Do not let your guard down, you too. Yan Lin warned. We can't underestimate a Shotokan. Agreed. Uncle will bring Japanese reference book so you can get busy. Uncle told Toru as he walked into the back room. Who knows what close study of our captive may uncover. Toru let out a defeated and exhausted sigh. Yes, sensei. Yan Lin gave the large man a sympathetic pat on the back. I'll prep some coffee, she said as she left to the kitchen. Toru smiled in the elderly woman's direction before turning to Alchemy, who had already fallen back to sleep, sitting on the chair and resting on the table she was previously studying on. Toru stood up with a slight smile as he put a small blanket over her. He was about to help himself to another cookie when he heard the jar rattle a bit. The Sumo Kai wizard in training turned around to see the mini-con looking at him, bouncing up and down like a puppy begging for a treat. Toru briefly looked at the tiny cookie in his hand as the mini-con continued to bounce. He then walked over to the desk, his large shadow falling over the jar as Toru slipped the tiny cookie in the jar, the mini-con bending over and appeared to be eating. Cookie-eating Shotokan. Toru smiled humorously. However, he began to feel rather weak, causing him to stand up. As he looked at the palm of his hand, he noticed the shadow of his hand behind it had several holes in it, much to his shock. My shadow. He turned around, grasping his hand in shock, and taking his eyes off the mini-con as its visor actually opened up to reveal a set of serrated teeth, which it used to bite down on Toru's shadow before gulping the whole thing and growing in size. Before Toru even knew what was happening, he fell over on the ground, causing a loud crash that awoke both Alchemy and Caleb. What was that? Caleb asked in a startle. Toru. Alchemy quickly ran over to him, followed by Caleb. However, their attention turned toward the jar, which had the growing mini-con inside, before the jar itself shattered to reveal that the mini-con had grown at least 10 times its own size, now the size of a human head as it snarled at them. What in the heck? Caleb exclaimed as Alchemy screamed. The mini-con leapt toward the pair, but Caleb quickly grabbed a random spell book and used it as a makeshift weapon to smack and knock it back. The scream was enough to wake up everyone in the shop as Uncle and Yan Lin were the first to arrive. Alchemy, what's wrong? Yan Lin questioned. That's what's wrong. She pointed toward the mini-con, causing both the elders to look in shock at the transformed creature. Iya! Uncle exclaimed. Uncle! Jackie's voice called out as he and the girls quickly ran down the stairs. What's going on down here? Terani questioned as they all gasped upon seeing the larger mini-con that turned to them with its serrated teeth. What the heck? Cornelia exclaimed upon seeing it. The creature turned toward the large group, spotting the massive shadow they were casting before leaping toward them, but will quickly brandish the heart of Kandrakar on instinct, its bright light shining out to blast the mini-con back. It growled at Will in particular as Uncle tried to shoot at it with his blowfish, but the mini-con leapt toward the shadow in the corner to melt into it and vanish. Is it gone? Will asked. Looks like it. Terani confirmed. Okay, somebody wanna explain what the hell that thing was? Irma practically screamed. Guys, that was the Shotokan we brought in. Caleb revealed, much to the group's shock. That little mini-con we grabbed. Jade questioned. How is that possible? Jackie questioned. But it was so tiny and cute. Hey Lin stated. And that thing was, bigger and not as cute. I mean, did that thing seriously have teeth? Forget the Shotokan, we got a man down. Alchemy exclaimed, alerting everyone else to Toru's condition. Toru. They all exclaimed as they surrounded him and looked more than a little worried. Oh man, please don't tell me he's dead. Cornelia dreaded, only to receive a dope slap on the forehead from Uncle. Ow. Not dead. Can you not hear snore? Uncle gestured to his unresponsive apprentice, who appeared to be snoring, as if he were asleep. Everyone help lift him into the back room. Jackie told the group. The entire group gathered around Toru's unconscious form as they struggled to help lift him off the ground and began to carry him toward the back room. I love the big guy and all, but he really needs to lose a few £100. Irma winced as they put him down on a mat that Uncle laid out for them, setting Toru down as most of the group straightened out their backs. Okay, so he's still alive, that's good. Jade said with partial relief but was still more than a little worried. If he's in some kind of coma, shouldn't we call the hospital? Terani asked. No doctor on Earth that can help Toru, now. Yan Lin shook her head. This is not a disease he has been afflicted with. Then what happened to him? Will asked. Toru is in very deep sleep. Uncle explained as he turned on a nearby table lamp. Shadows contain our yin, one half of our kai. He put his own hand in front of the lamp to show his own shadow for emphasis. Clearly, this Shotokan tribe grows stronger by feeding upon human shadow. He pulled up Toru's hand in front of the lamp, only to reveal there was no longer a shadow to be cast, much to the group's horror. Holy crap. Cornelia's face paled. That, actually is kinda terrifying. Irma said. It's kinda like when we had to deal with all those Elion duplicates. Alchemy remembered. Jade, you were able to tell them apart because they didn't have any shadows. Yeah, that was kinda creepy. Jade remembered that event quite well. Those duplicates were mere projections. Caleb also recalled. They weren't alive, so they didn't have any of this Kai stuff, so they couldn't cast any real shadows. Isn't that right? He asked Yan Lin. That is correct, Caleb. Yan Lin confirmed. And without our shadows, we are doomed to a state of limbo indefinitely. And without being able to eat, it won't be long before we starve to death. Terani added as a new weight of terror set in on the group. Yeah, that mask was definitely not a dud. Will pointed out. This situation has become far graver than we could have hoped. Jackie said. How can we stop this, and get Toru's shadow back? By ending Hakufu's control over his Shotokan. Uncle replied. But, we cannot remove mask from him without spell ingredient. This caused Hei Lin to wince, feeling really guilty over that whole incident. Will immediately put a hand on her shoulder, silently trying to tell her that it wasn't her fault. But, that thing is still a Shotokan, right? The redhead began. Every single type of Shotokan we've faced before can be destroyed. So, if we destroy this, Shadow Eater, wouldn't that send Toru's shadow back or something? Theoretically, yes. Yan Lin confirmed. But if we want a permanent solution to this problem, the mask has to be removed. Otherwise, Hakufu can summon as many as he wants, and the more shadows these Shadow Eaters consume, the stronger they'll get. Alright. Jackie began. Alchemy, you stay here and help Uncle and Miss Lin to find out what the spell ingredient is. The rest of us will locate the Shadow Eater and destroy it. And it may not be the only one out there. Caleb also said, if we've discovered what this tribe is capable of by accident, it won't long before Phobos figures it out too and uses them against us. Or Tarakudo could just tell him. Ya know, King of Shotokan and all that. Cornelia reminded. Do not be careless. Uncle told the group. Your own shadows are at risk. But this thing can't eat the shadows of non-living things, right? Jade asked. And my powers let me manipulate shadows. So, you can help keep us from casting shadows, and the Shadow Eaters won't be able to eat them. Terani stated. Jade, you're a genius. I try. Jade smirked. Meridian, Phobos Castle. There are 9 Oni masks in total, Phobos began as he sat on his throne. 8 have been discovered. All of the previous 7 attempts to acquire a mask have all ended in failure. Despite that, in most cases, those very same masks have ended up on the face on ally, or someone close to our enemies that have almost been completely corrupted. But now, after 7 failures, we finally succeed in not only retrieving an Oni mask, but it is even worn by arguably the strongest warrior in our ranks. Only to find that this mask seems to control, arguably the absolute weakest out of all the Shadow weakened tribes. The enraged prince stood up from his throne to face Wang, Cedric, and Oni Hawk Fu, who had summoned a small group of mini-con to show the Dark Prince. As expected, he was not happy with the results. Though a few guards around them couldn't help but snicker as the trio hung their heads in frustration and failure. Humblest apologies, my lord. Cedric muttered. But surely, this Shotokan tribe can serve us, Wang tried. Oh, please tell me how. Phobos began. Please tell me how these insects, these pitiful excuses for Shotokan can possibly serve us. He exclaimed. Oni Hawk Fu growled as he looked down to his tiny minions. Show Master Phobos your war faces. He told them. The mini-con around him tried to look as menacing as possible, but it honestly looked even cuter than before, causing several more guards to chuckle, some struggling to hold back their laughs. Phobos was more than ready to unleash his fury upon his failed allies, but Tarakudo emerged from behind the throne to quell the situation. You really should learn to control that temper of yours. Tarakudo advised the Dark Prince. Anger can be a useful tool, so long as you don't allow it to consume you. Tarakudo, I have been more than patient since this mission to retrieve the Oni masks began. Phobos told him. But every person's patience has its limits and I feel I've reached mine with this. He gestured to the tiny Shotokan again, a frustration that was shared by Wang, Cedric, and especially Oni Hawk Fu. Phobos, all Shotokan are deadly. Tarakudo told him. You just need to be aware of their strengths. You call these strong? Oni Hawk Fu questioned. I see a demonstration is in order. Tarakudo said before he turned toward the guards. He looked to one guard in particular, causing the others around him to step to the side and away from their comrade that the Oni King singled out. Me. He pointed toward himself. Yes, please take 4 steps forward. Tarakudo requested. The guard gulped nervously before doing as he was told. Once he took his 4th step, his right side faced a window as the moonlight that shined from the outside also shined over him, revealing his own shadow. So, now what? Tarakudo only smirked before he whistled. This caused 3 of the tiny Shadow Eaters to walk toward the guard's shadow before they bit down on the shadow and began to inhale it, much to the guard's shock. What are you? His shadow is quickly consumed, causing him to fall unconscious on the ground, much to the shock of his fellow guards. Even Phobos, Cedric, Wang, and Oni Hawk Fu looked in surprise. What happened? Cedric questioned as they saw the 3 tiny Shadow Eaters become much larger, their serrated teeth now clearly visible. Daolan Wang quickly inspected the down guard. He is alive, shadows contain half the life force of all living beings, without it, we are rendered to this state of limbo. Growing boys need their nutrients after all. Tarakudo said. Phobos' expression became one that appeared to be intrigued. Is there a limit to the number of shadows they can consume? Not that I'm aware of. Tarakudo replied. And during my reign of terror, I've seen these little guys grow to be the size of mountains. That got Phobos' attention. And they can consume the shadows of all living beings. Even the guardians. Tarakudo confirmed with an evil smirk, which soon mirrored Phobos' own. Then it seems I was mistaken earlier. Phobos said as he coolly sat back down in his throne. Warrior. Yes, master. Oni Hakufu bowed, now feeling quite confident in his demonic army. Take your Shotokan and return to Earth. Phobos instructed. Go to the home city of Chan and the Guardians and have them consume the shadows of all living creatures there. Once your army has literally grown, return to Meridian and we will use them to crush the rebellion once and for all. Again, quite literally. With pleasure, Lord Phobos. Oni Hakufu smiled malevolently. Phobos and Tarakudo exchanged knowing glances, knowing that the Oni spirit inside will corrupt Hakufu even further. Even Daolan Wang would lose control, despite Hakufu being a Dark Kai warrior initially. We will return to the human realm at once. Daolan Wang and Cedric both bowed as well. I gave no such command. Phobos said, much to their confusion. But, Prince Phobos, you just said, Cedric began. I told Hakufu to return to Earth, but I did not order either of you to do so. The prince explained. But, he is my warrior. Wang tried to explain, doing his best to hide his irritation. And you, serve me. Phobos told him. Or have you forgotten? My prince, I do not understand. Wang said. Then allow me to explain it to you, both of you. Phobos began as he spoke to Wang and Cedric. Nearly every battle you've waged against Chan and the Guardians has ended in failure, and do you know why? It is because the two of you seem to put your needs ahead of the mission. So let me make this as clear as I possibly can. This is not about you. Prince Phobos, Cedric tried, suppressing his growl. Do you know why I am so invested in the Shotokan? Phobos continued. It is because they serve their masters, unequivocally. They do not talk back, they do not alter or change plans because it conflicts with their own agendas, they do not even have agendas of their own. So why would I risk another failure by sending the two of you into a battle, when I stand an even greater chance of succeeding of just using Hakufu who can control the Shotokan without either of you? Prince Phobos. Wang attempted to protest. Kneel. He told them. What? Cedric questioned. Both of you. On your knees. Now. Phobos. Eyes narrowed. They glared at the prince at first, who raised his hand toward them, readying his own magic. Even Tarakudo hovered by his side, raising an eyebrow at them, indicating he was on Phobos' side with the matter. Realizing they had no choice, both the Dark Kai wizard and the humanoid shapeshifter kneeled. You are my servants. I am your master. You serve me. Nothing me. Phobos told them. Do you understand? Yes. Cedric said in a low hiss. Say it. Phobos demanded. We are your servants. Wang practically spat out, feeling nothing short of humiliated in this situation. You are our master. We serve you. And, nothing more. Yes, you do. Phobos said. And do not ever forget it. Heatherfield, Uncle's rare finds. Ninja suction unit. Uncle began. Check. Jackie confirmed as he, along with Caleb, were completely clad in black. Both they, as well as Wool, wore special designed shop vacuums on their backs like backpacks with hoses and nozzles attached to the end. Kai-powered night vision goggles. Yan Lin continued. Check. Will said as she and the other girls were clad in their respective guardian forms, each of them wearing the aforementioned night vision goggles. Handheld Dark Kai detector. Uncle went on. Check. Jade confirmed as everyone in the group each held their own device, which was a dried lizard taped to a compass. Coffee to keep us all awake and not fall asleep. Check. Irma said as she drank a can of coffee before cringing in disgust. How do people drink this stuff? Good thing tomorrow's Sunday. Cornelia said. We're probably gonna be up all night with this. Actually, it's 1 in the morning right now, so it's already Sunday. Terani pointed out. Not important right now, Terani. Will lightly chastised. So, we all know the plan. Jackie began. We'll split into 4 groups of 2 to cover more ground throughout the city. Will and myself, Jade and Hei Lin, Cornelia and Caleb, Irma and Terani. Uncle handed Jackie a small vial of a green liquid. This is the potion, if in the event Uncle discovers missing ingredient for removal spell. We will work as quickly as we can. Yan Lin said as she and Alchemy stood up. But you must find and destroy any and all shadow eaters before they consume too many shadows and become too strong. I've got the Chinese to Japanese dictionary right here, as well as Chinese to English, and English to Japanese. Alchemy held up 3 books. Try saying that 5 times fast. Jade snickered. Come on, we got Shotokan to hunt. Lin said in a serious expression. Will and Jackie searched a dark alleyway as they each had a vacuum and dark Kai detector on hand, looking in all directions for the Shadow Eaters. So far, they didn't seem to find anything as they got close to a dumpster, which suddenly rattled. Jackie held his dark Kai detector toward the moving dumpster, and it didn't glow. No Shadow Eaters here. 3 guesses what's in there, then. Will said with lowered eyelids as she lifted the lid of the dumpster to reveal none other than Blunk rummaging through the garbage, who gave a wave to the 2. Hello. Friends of Blunk out late. Not usually out so late. Blunk commented. It's been a long date night. Will said. Blunk, you wouldn't happen to have seen anything strange, have you? Jackie asked. Be more specific. Blunk see all kinds of strange things. The passling said before he looked behind them and gave a gasp. Before they could ask what he meant, both Will and Jackie's dark Kai detectors began to glow green as they pointed in the direction Blunk was looking. The duo turned around to see multiple Shadow Eaters enter the alleyway and gun straight towards them, their shadows clearly visible. Will acted quick as she slammed her vacuum against the light over them, causing their shadows to vanish and halting the Shadow Eaters in their tracks, prompting Will and Jackie to vacuum them up as quickly as possible. Well, at least we know these things work. Will said as they sucked up the last of the Shadow Eaters. Yes, but the fact that there are more Shadow Eaters, Jackie said to her, hoping she would catch the hint, means that Hakfu figured out how this tribe works. Will commented with a groan. Blunk, you're gonna want to stick with us. Keep a lookout for any more of those things. Yes. Blunk hates shadow monsters. Blunk said as he hopped onto Jackie's backpack and looked in all directions. Blunk keep lookout. Let's go. Jackie said as they continued their search. Meanwhile, Jade and Lin flew over one street to find any Shadow Eaters over their area of the city. So far, so good. No Shadow Eater in sight. No, that's not good. Lin stated. It means Toru's Shadow Eater is still out there. We have to find it as soon as possible. Then we'll find Hakfu and take him down. Whoa, hold your horses, girl. Jade told her. We don't know the spell ingredient yet. And you saw how buffed up he is now. There's no way the 2 of us stand a chance against him. I know, but I have to do this. I have to. Lin stopped when Jade grabbed her by the shoulder and pulled her, so she looked into her eye. What do you mean, you have to? We're a team, remember? She reminded. We gotta solve this together. Because it's my fault. Lin's solid expression fell as she made her guilt known. I lost the card that had the ingredient. If we still had it, even if Hakfu did get the mask, we could have already whipped up the potion. And there wouldn't have been a reason to bring that Shadow Eater back with us. What happened to Toru? It's my fault. Hey, look at me. Lin, look at me. Jade stated firmly as they made eye contact and Jade spoke in a serious voice. This isn't your fault. What happened with the card was an accident, they happen. Feeling guilty isn't going to change what happened. What's important right now is doing what we can to stop all this. Lin looked to Jade in surprise, listening to every word as her own expression softened a bit before continuing. Look, let me tell you as someone who's made more than her fair share of mistakes, all you can do is stand up and do everything you can to make things right. Learn from your mistake, but don't get so hung up over it in that it's all you're thinking about. So, let's solve this problem the same way we always do, together. You with me. Lin smiled before she pulled Jade into a hug. Yeah, I'm with you. Thanks Jade, that really helped. Jade returned the embrace. Hey, what are friends for, right? Suddenly, the tender moment was ended as both their dark Kai detectors began to glow as they pointed down toward the street. Both guardians got serious as they flew to a shaded part of the alleyway to see a cluster of mini-con approaching an unsuspecting man standing over a lamp post. The Shadow Eaters practically drooling at the sight of his shadow. Hey, look out. Lin called to the pedestrian, who looked to see the approaching Shadow Eaters. He screamed as he ran away. They tried to give pursuit and bite down on his shadow and almost would have, had Jade not used her powers to extend the shadow of the lamppost itself around the Shadow Eaters and cover the fleeing man's shadow, who already ran away into the nearest alleyway. Sorry boys, not today. Jade smirked as Lin used her own powers to create a tornado to engulf all the mini-con, before condensing the tornado into a sphere of air, sharpening the blades of wind to shred and slice all the mini-con inside. Jade couldn't help but whistle at her friend's handiwork. Dang girl, remind me not to get on your bad side. Ah, but we're besties. You could never be on my bad side. Lin smiled as she wrapped her arm around Jade's shoulder. There's the smiley Lin we all know. Jade pointed with approval. Uncle's rare finds. As Toru continued to remain in his limboed sleep, Uncle, Yan Lin, and Alchemy worked as hard as they could to try and find the proper translation for the missing spell ingredient. Hey, I think I found it. Alchemy said, getting the attention of the elders as she read from the Japanese to English dictionary. The ingredient is the shoelace of a giraffe. Wait, what? Giraffes don't wear shoes. Probably mixed up characters, it happens. Yan Lin told her. Alchemy groaned as she slammed her head on the dictionary in front of her. I would never last in a foreign language class. Less talk, more translate. Uncle stated. Back in the city, several shadow eaters ran away from Caleb as he attempted to suck up several into his vacuum. He was able to get a good portion, but several escaped and turned the corner. Oh no, you don't. Caleb chased them around the corner, only to come to a sudden stop as he saw what appeared to be at least 100 shadow eaters all clustered together. Caleb then glanced upward and saw he was standing under a lamp, casting his own shadow. All the shadow eaters sneered as they leapt down for their meal. Fortunately, the ground itself opened up, causing all the shadow eaters to fall in before it closed up and crushed them all instantly. Cornelia brushed her hands with a smirk as she hovered down. What would you do without me? She teased Caleb, who chuckled nervously as he rubbed the back of his neck. Thanks. Ah, young love. They both glanced up in surprise to see Oni Haku looming over them from a rooftop before he jumped down to meet them in the alleyway. It's so nauseating. Haku, Caleb exclaimed. You know what else is nauseating? This. Cornelia shot her hands forward to fling a multitude of bricks from all over the alleyway straight at Haku. However, the Dark Kai Oni warrior merely crossed his arms as he allowed the bricks to impact his body, and be smashed to dust upon impact, leaving not so much as a scratch on him. Oh, Onified Dark Kai warrior mega super strength, forgot. Cornelia winced before Haku grabbed her and Caleb by their throats. You are not the only one who can fly. Oni Haku told her before leaping high into the air with both of them. Once he was high enough, he threw them back down toward the street. Caleb quickly held onto Cornelia to cushion her from the impact as they fell, but she also acted in a similar manner, using her powers to turn a portion of the street into concrete powder, not too dissimilar to sand, to soften their landing, but it was a rough landing all the same. Ow, Caleb groaned as he helped Cornelia up as well. That's 2 I owe you. Caleb. Cornelia pointed upward to reveal they were standing directly under a lit lamppost, both their shadows clearly visible, with a pack of shadow eaters standing on the lamppost above them, and even a ring of several more shadow eaters emerging from the ground, having been summoned by Oni Haku. Bon appetite. He sneered evilly as the shadow eaters leapt at them with open teeth and snarls. Meanwhile, Terani stood in the park, right in front of a pond, holding a flame over her to cast a shadow and draw in several shadow eaters around her. Come on, who's hungry? Fresh shadow meat for everyone. Come and get it. Terani tempted as all the shadow eaters around her brandished their teeth and attempted to feast on her shadow. However, the pond shot out a large stream of water that bent around Terani and caught all the approaching shadow eaters before taking the form of a large bubble that kept them all trapped inside. Irma descended from the tree she was hiding in to land near her friend as she controlled the floating bubble. The old bait and trap, works every time. Irma smirked before Terani created a fireball within the sphere of water, one so hot that it caused the water to boil before it exploded, destroying all the trapped shadow eaters inside. And who said fire and water don't mix well together? Terani said as she and Irma shared a high five. Your efforts are futile. Oni Haku appeared before them, walking out from the shadows. Your power is insignificant compared to what I have become. Don't give him a chance to attack. Hit him with everything you got. Terani blasted the largest inferno she could muster at him, with Irma mimicking her actions by blasting a powerful stream of water with such high pressure, it could even cut through concrete. But Oni Hawk-Fu crossed his arms to take it, even though it was pushing him back slightly. He smiled evilly as he noticed the flames Terani was using created a large shadow behind her. Irma glanced to her left as she saw 3 shadow eaters emerge from the darkness and gun straight for her friend's shadow. Terani, look out. But her warning came too late, as Terani only just noticed the shadow eaters already feasting on her shadow. No, don't. In less than a second, her shadow was consumed and Terani fell into her state of limbo, while the 3 shadow eaters around her had already grown quite large. Irma was ready to blast the shadow eaters away with a stream of water, believing destroying them would rescue Terani's shadow. But this left her open for Oni Hawk-Fu to seize her by the throat, lifting her up with one hand, while holding a patch of dirt in the other, which had some leftover fire from Terani's attack, and casted a shadow around Irma. Oni Hawk-Fu snickered evilly as the struggling Irma looked in horror to see the shadow eaters around her begin to consume her own shadow as well. Will and Jackie had sucked up more than a couple dozen shadow eaters into their respective vacuums, with Blanc continuing to hang onto the latter's shoulder and keep the lookout for any others. The pasling noticed a single shadow eater hiding between some boxes. Little shadow man, there. Blanc pointed, prompting Jackie to quickly corner it in an attempt to suck it up. But when he pulled the trigger, all he got was a beeping noise from the vacuum. My bag is full, Jackie told Will as they saw the shadow eater attempt to retreat. Little shadow man, get away, Blanc stated. Wait, let's follow him, Will suggested as he ran after it, with Jackie and Blanc close behind. Maybe he could lead us to one that ate Toru's shadow. When she followed the shadow eater around the corner, she ended up bumping into the shadow eater in question, only to find that it was much larger now than before, almost a full 12 feet tall. Found him. The redhead giggled nervously as Jackie and Blanc rounded the corner to see it. The pasling screamed as he hid behind Jackie. Giant shadow monster. Giant shadow monster. And he has been snacking between meals. Oni Hawk-Fu revealed himself, standing on the rooftop parallel to them. The large shadow eater roared as it lunged at them, attempting to bite down on their shadow, only for all the shadows in the entire alleyway to envelop the entire area, hiding the shadows of Jackie, Will, and Blanc, much to the shock of the large shadow eater. Sorry, no midnight snacking for you, young man. Jade snarked as she revealed herself in the air, with Hei Lin flying in at high speeds past her, holding her hands back as she prepped a surging air sphere in her hands before blasting it point blank at the large shadow eater. Came Rasengan, she exclaimed as the attack blasted the shadow eater all the way out into the streets, crashing into a mailbox. Though it did not poof, the attack did appear to hurt it. Jade, Hei Lin, Jackie called as the two joined him, Will, and Blanc. We just happened to be in the neighborhood, Jade said. Will snickered toward Hei Lin. Did you just combine a Kamehameha with a Rasengan? She asked her fellow guardian. Turns out anime can be applicable in real life, too. Hei Lin replied. Don't get too confident, Oni Hawk-Fu said as he landed on the ground next to the recovering shadow eater. All your other friends have fallen. He gestured further down the street, where everyone gasped at what they saw. Cornelia, Irma, Terani, and Caleb, all in a state of slumbering limbo, were held up by their wrists, tied from a lamppost, which were being guarded by the dozen shadow eaters that had already consumed their shadows. The shadow eaters all snickered, along with the massive one that stood by the chuckling Oni Hawk-Fu. Wake our friends up, right now Hawk-Fu, Hei Lin demanded. Better idea, how about you join them? Oni Hawk-Fu pointed eastward, where the sun was slowly starting to rise, already causing the group of heroes to cast their own shadows, much to their horror. Good morning, Oni Hawk-Fu told them. Now, good night. Bear feeds on honey. He commanded all the shadow eaters to attack the group, but Jade quickly expanded the shadow from the building behind them to cover their own while Hei Lin expanded a large air sphere and blew it out to blast back the shadow eaters, but they quickly recovered and regrouped. Will glanced to the side and noticed the tiny one she was previously chasing was making a break for it. No, we can't let a single one get away. Blanc noticed a metal pole in a nearby trash can and quickly pulled it out before leaping down. Blanc will smash tiny shadow monster. He volunteered as he chased after the tiny shadow eater. Just stay out of the light, Blanc, Jackie told him. Jackie, maybe we should focus more on the guys in front of us. Jade suggested as the large shadow eater, and the ones that consumed the shadows of their allies, lunged at them once more. Yeah, we really need that removal spell right now. Hey Lin gulped. Uncle's rare finds. Bad news everyone. Alchemy walked back into the room where Yan Lin and Uncle continued to work, with Toru still in limbo. The sun is rising. We need that removal spell, now. Yan Lin stated. If Hakufu's shadow eaters consume the shadows of everyone in Heatherfield, we'll have shadow kaiju on our hands. Alchemy exclaimed in terror. Uncle gave a near-defeated sigh. Japanese translation is not going well. Unless ingredient we seek is lobster wearing corduroy pants. Aiya, he slammed his head on the book, accidentally touching the TV remote and turning on the television to a specific channel. Hey, it's Miss Kimber's Psychic Shack. Alchemy recognized the channel instantly, as did Uncle. You. He pointed to the television screen. Looks like you are in need of some good fortune, sugar. Phone me now, and we can fix whatever is ailing you together. The advertisement of Miss Kimber said. Call her, now. Yan Lin said immediately. What? Uncle questioned. Miss Lin. Alchemy also looked confused. I've worked with Miss Kimber before, she really is a psychic, and most of her predictions are spot on. Yan Lin revealed. Seriously? Alchemy questioned. Seriously? Yan Lin confirmed. Only I have the answers you seek. The advertisement continued. Seeing how they had almost no options, and very little time left, Uncle decided what to do. Fetch Uncle phone. Jade extended a long line of shadows from the buildings that she and her friends clung to with Hei Lin blasting more gusts of wind to keep all the smaller shadow eaters at bay, both the ones that had consumed the shadows of their friends, as well as new ones that Oni Hakufu had summoned. Though there were a few that emerged from the shadow that Jade was manipulating, Jackie and Will used their vacuum hoses and respective martial arts skills to beat them back. The largest shadow eater tried to lunge at them next, but Jade manipulated the shadows even further to shoot up a series of spikes, halting the shadow eater's advance. Just imagine it, an army of these creatures, obeying my every command. Oni Hakufu gloated. How about we don't imagine that? Will exclaimed as she beat back several shadow eaters. Meanwhile, Blanc continued to run after the tiny shadow eater he had chasing, trying to smash it with his rod. Ordinarily, the mini-con would have tried to consume Blanc's shadow, but the passling was surprisingly quick, and one good hit from the rod could easily destroy the tiny shadow creature. Tiny shadow eater stop moving. Blanc ordered. Let Blanc smash you. He tried to smash it again, but the shadow eater leapt out of the way just as the rod hit the sidewalk and continued to flee, with Blanc pursuing once more. However, the tiny shadow eater had managed to give Blanc the slip and find sanctuary into a nearby subway tunnel. It appeared empty for the moment, but a train quickly arrived with hundreds of passengers on the morning rush. So many shadows to feast on, the shadow eater smiled and licked its teeth with excitement. For you, my apprentice. Uncle told the slumbering Toru as he dialed the number while Yan Lin and Alchemy watched. I could have called her. Alchemy said. He didn't have to swallow his pride. Swallowing one's pride is actually good for you. Yan Lin said. Besides, it's sweet how much he's willing to do for the people he's cared about. Sounds like he did quite a bit for you back in your glory days, right? Alchemy teased with a slight nudge. Maybe a little. Yan Lin smiled reminiscently as Uncle made the call. Welcome to Miss Kimber's Psychic Hotline, where I reveal what the stars tell. Uncle needs help finding mask removal ingredient and for you to never speak of this to anyone. He quickly demanded. We're so telling everyone about this, aren't we? Alchemy asked Yan Lin with a smirk. Oh, most definitely. She confirmed as Uncle continued to talk with Miss Kimber over the phone. Yes, I see. Uncle finally got what he needed and couldn't feel more relieved that he knew it. And it's high time you pursued your true passion. Miss Kimber told him. Uncle gasped. Oil painting. That's right. Miss Kimber confirmed. Cause the stars say, Uncle needs to take time out for Uncle. His eyes shook as he gasped once again. It is like you have window into Uncle's soul. Told you she was psychic. Yan Lin smirked. And, you like to paint. That's a surprise. Alchemy said. Blanc whistled as he held his rod like a baseball bat. Come out little shadow eater. Blanc only wants to smash you. Come to Blanc. He called out as he walked close to the subway entrance his quarry had recently jumped down into. However, something began to emerge from the entrance to the subway. Something that casted a massive shadow over the tiny pasling, causing him to instinctively drop his rod as his jaw also dropped. Jackie, Will, Jade, and Hei Lin found themselves back into a corner as they were completely surrounded by the large shadow eater, all the slightly smaller ones that had eaten the shadows of their friends, and the tiny ones that Oni Hakufu had summoned. The Dark Kai Oni warrior laughing at the sight of the helpless heroes as they had nowhere left to go. Jade, doing everything she could to keep her friends safe, expanded the shadows in the area as before to protect their own. Oni Hakufu was starting to become annoyed. Enough of the damn shadow puppets. He leapt toward the heroes with a powerful smash attack that destroyed the ground below them, sending all four of them skidding across the streets and exposing their shadows. It's chow time. He directed all his shadow eaters to surround them, the four heroes circling up as there didn't seem to be a way out of this one. I love you guys. I really do. Jade exclaimed, seeing no hope for victory here. Suddenly, the ground began to shake, catching everyone's attention, even the other shadow eaters. Please tell me that's something good, Will hopped. Blanc's shrill scream could be heard as they saw the pasling running for his life straight toward them. Tiny shadow eater, not tiny anymore. Blanc continued to scream as he ran, which appeared to be from a shadow eater that was now the size of a building. Someone had a big breakfast. Hei Lin gulped as her pupils shrunk, with Will, Jackie, and Jade looking in clear horror. Now that's what I call a warrior. Oni Hakufu exclaimed in ecstasy as the gigantic shadow eater roared. Jackie's cell phone rang, and he was quick to answer, hoping it was Uncle who had the spell ingredient. Uncle. Jackie, if psychic speaks truth, there is good chance Uncle will be taking unexpected trip. Oh, and mask removal ingredient is fish. Uncle, we are about to be swallowed by a whale. Where are we supposed to find a fish in the middle of downtown? Jackie exclaimed. Jackie want fish? Blanc asked as he reached into his shirt to pull out a half-rotten fish that was likely from the dumpster he was previously in. Blanc was saving for snack, but friends use it so we don't be snack. Fine with me. Hei Lin grabbed the fish and took out the potion and poured them both over her own hands. Hit it, Uncle. Jackie put the phone on speaker as Uncle recited the chant. Nukuruhi men jaaku. Nukuruhi men jaaku. Nukuruhi men jaaku. As Uncle chanted, Hei Lin's hands began to glow green as the removal spell was now ready. Wasting no time at all, Hei Lin quickly flew directly at the stunned Oni Hakufu, tackling him to the ground and grabbed his mask as she tried to yank it off. Oni Hakufu attempted to resist, but Jackie, Will, and Jade quickly appeared around him to grab and restrain him as best they could. Even Blanc tried to help as he wrapped his arms around Oni Hakufu's neck. Both sides struggled with all their might, but Hei Lin was successfully able to yank the Oni mask off Hakufu's face and send him skidding across the ground. The second the mask was yanked off, all the shadow eaters vanished, and the ones that had already consumed the shadows of others had exploded as all the stolen shadows shot in every direction to return to where they belonged. Hakufu, now a normal Dark Kai warrior, attempted to pull himself up. No, I will simply put the mask back on. You cannot. Slice. Asterisk. Hakufu was swiftly decapitated, before his body poofed away, revealing Jade had sliced at him from behind with a shadow katana in her hand. Oh, shut up, will you? Jade, that was brutal. Even for you, Will pointed out. He's a Dark Kai warrior. He'll be fine. Jade shrugged. The shadows of Terani, Caleb, Irma, and Cornelia all returned as Jackie had already freed them from their bonds, and they regained consciousness. Ah, man, do I have a headache. Irma groaned. Oh good, you're all okay. Jackie breathed a sigh of relief. What happened? Caleb asked. We won, that's what happened. Hei Lin smiled as she presented the Oni mask. Blanc fish saved the day. Blanc added. Blanc can get more fish if you want. Ah, no thanks Blanc. Will cringe. So, it's over. Everyone's stolen shadows are returning? Cornelia asked. Looks that way. Jade confirmed. But what about Toru? Terani asked. The entire group, as well as Blanc, made their way back to Uncle's rare finds as quickly as they could, the girls still in their respective guardian forms, as they entered the back room. Toru. Most of them all exclaimed. I'm fine, right here. Toru waved to them as he continued to lay flat on his back on the mat he had been sleeping on, causing the group to look relieved. Thank goodness. Lin smiled. Welcome back, big guy. Will also smiled. But, why do you have a bowl of fruit on your stomach? Caleb asked, with the rest of the group only just noticing there was indeed a bowl of various fruits resting on his large belly. And, what is that? Irma pointed toward what appeared to be a painted picture of Toru with the fruit bowl on his belly that Uncle had been working on. Aiya, do not disturb environment, Uncle exclaimed. Uncle, what are you doing? Jackie asked. Oil painting, he revealed with a smile. Uncle must learn to take time out for Uncle. Huh, that actually looks really good. Terani commented as everyone else looked toward Alchemy and Yan Lin, who hung at the side and merely shrugged with smiles. Miss Kimber's psychic shack. The phone rang, which the psychic woman answered promptly. Hello, Miss Kimber's psychic hotline. Hey, it's Cornelia, but you probably already knew that. The Earth Guardian greeted over the phone. Of course, I knew. Miss Kimber replied. I take it your mission was a success, hun. Yeah, thanks so much for your help. It was kinda satisfying to see Uncle swallow his pride for once. Cornelia chuckled. But there's another reason I called. You want me to see if your friend Elion will be safe, right? Miss Kimber assumed. She's my best friend, I need to know. Please. Cornelia pleaded. I can't say exactly what will happen, but I will say this. Miss Kimber began. You will face many great obstacles and adversaries that will try to bar you. The road ahead will be a dangerous one. But, if you stand true, plant your feet, and trust your friends, you will succeed. She heard Cornelia's sigh of relief on the other end of the line, no doubt a huge weight felt lifted from her chest. Thanks again so much. That's all I needed to hear. Bye. She hung up. Miss Kimber had a serious expression as she'd put the phone down and looked toward a board resembling a chess board that had a series of dolls around it. On one side, where the dolls of the heroes she had shown them earlier consisting of Will, Jackie, Jade, Irma, Lin, Cornelia, Terani, Uncle, Caleb, even those of Toru and Alchemy. On the other side was a doll of Elion that was surrounded by the dolls of Phobos, Cedric, Miranda, and Daolan Wang, even a painted potato that resembled the face of Tarakudo. However, right behind the dolls of the villains, there was also a larger, at least by comparison, statue of a Chinese dragon. Great obstacles and adversaries indeed. Miss Kimber looked to the dragon with worry. Meridian. Daolan Wang had secured his personal chambers to see that he was not disturbed by anyone. He even wiped up his own Dark Kai Onion spell to keep Tarakudo from slipping in. It was clear to see that Phobos was trying to gain favor with the Oni King. Even though Tarakudo had provided aid for himself and Cedric in the past, he would be a fool to completely trust the King of the Shotokan. He was also certain Cedric was likely planning to betray him as well. The Guardians and Chan alone were a headache, but having to deal with potential backstabs from three very dangerous individuals, Daolan Wang would need some serious help. Fortunately, he knew exactly who to turn to. Your answer, most malevolent of fire breathers. He asked humbly through a spectral window, speaking to a certain ghost that dwelled in the netherworld. It would seem you have summoned me merely to humor me, wizard. The fire demon Shendu stated. This man-child, Phobos, and his pet shapeshifters are of no real concern to me. But, if you were to vanquish the likes of Tarakudo, the lord of all Oni, you would require the power of a living demon sorcerer, which I am not. You underestimate my talents, Lord Shendu. Daolan Wang said. Phobos hopes to steal the powers of his younger sister Elion, the power of the heart of Meridian itself. However, as the most malevolent of Dark Kai masters, I could use my own power to alter the ritual, so instead of feeding the powers of that fool, I would use it to completely restore you to life. Though this would mean he would not be able to gain the power of the heart of Meridian, he could gain something equally valuable, if not more so, if the ultimate evil agreed to this exchange. Interesting. Shendu looked mildly intrigued, but not enough to completely agree with his plan. But few things come without a price, so what is it you wish in return? You were able to control a single tribe of Shotokan without having to wear the Oni mask. Daolan Wang began. I would ask that you allow me to use the same method to control all 9 tribes, even the power of the Oni generals and their king. That is a rather steep price. Shendu's eyes narrowed. Why would I agree to this if it mostly serves for your benefit? Oh, this may benefit you as well, Lord Shendu. Jackie Chan will also seek to rescue the girl. Wang continued, the very mention of his nemesis name got Shendu's attention. He has also gained powerful allies. But if I were to command the power of the Oni and the Shotokan, our combined strength would be enough to crush them. And with our mutual enemies finally eliminated, nothing will stop you from taking the earth as you've always desired. And, if they are so foolish enough to bring the talismans, I can also use my power to return them to you. I would have the power of the 10 Oni demons and legions of Shotokan and rule over Meridian, while you will not only regain all the powers of the Zodiac, and the satisfaction of eliminating Chan, the earth will be yours to rule. I would say that is an enticing deal, wouldn't you agree? Shendu smiled malevolently as his eyes glowed a brighter red. Then it would seem we have a bargain, Daolon Wang. If you find the spell that would allow me to live again. The battle for Meridian Plains. Guards and soldiers practically pour into the castle town and began to tear it apart, looking for any sign of the rebels or their hiding spot. The day of Elion's coronation grows closer, and the rebellion has only grown bolder. The villains were starting to grow desperate. The people were all but helpless as they saw their homes invaded, their possessions torn apart, and even being forced into questioning. Cedric and Daolon Wang appeared to be leading the raids as they stood by a well where a civilian was brought before them for questioning. I'm sure you're well aware of how much bolder the rebels have been acting these past few months. Cedric began, and they would love nothing more than to disrupt the coronation ceremony. Where is their hiding place? The civilian said nothing in response, either out of ignorance or pure defiance. If that is how you wish to play it, then let us take what you value most. Daolon Wang approached the well and began to recite a dark Kai chant. As he chanted, he raised his scepter over the well and cast a surging bolt of dark magic directly into the water at the bottom of the well. The moment it made contact, the water turned into vapor and blew straight out into the sky before the well was dried out completely. The more you remain silent, the less you'll drink, Cedric told the gathered civilians, causing them to look in horror, and even several guards began to look more than a little disturbed. Elion was shown a large golden throne by her elder brother. It was so shiny and beautiful, the kind of throne that a princess from a fairy tale would sit upon. This is the throne you shall sit upon to greet your subjects, dear sister. Phobos presented. It's so beautiful, Elion looked in awe. May I? Phobos merely gestured toward the throne with a smile, allowing Elion to step up and sit on the throne. However, the moment she did, she began to feel so weak. Her skin turned pale as the color left her eyes. Suddenly, everything around her was set ablaze. A raging fire surged around her like a vicious inferno. She was so weak, she couldn't run away or even scream. When the fire crept closer and closer, a large figure emerged from the flames and loomed over the terrified girl. She couldn't make out the features of this beast, for they were obscured by shadows. But there were a pair of glowing red eyes. One look into those eyes paralyzed her with fear as the flames completely engulfed the poor girl. No! Heilin awoke with a scream. Her body was covered in sweat as she looked around in a panic, her mind catching up with her body as she saw that she was still in her own room, and nothing was set on fire. She breathed a sigh of relief, but even though it was just a dream, it felt so real, and there was no mistaking the fear that Heilin herself felt once she saw those red eyes. Sheffield Institute. Later that day, after meeting the girls at lunch in the cafeteria, Heilin began to tell them everything she saw in her dream. I was Elion, she exclaimed. I was sitting on this big chair, and I was real happy. But then, I started to feel totally draggy and weak, and then, everything was on fire. Whoa, looks like you got some premonition powers, huh? Jade commented. But what if it was just a regular nightmare? Alchemy asked. I mean, between all the fighting monsters, the Oni masks and the Shotokan, I'm surprised you guys aren't getting nightmares already. Yeah, those Bat-Con and even the Shadow Eaters were real nightmare fuel. Irma said. For me it was the Squid Con. Terani said. All those tentacles, she shivered. But what if it's not a dream? What if Elion really is in danger? Cornelia questioned. Her coronation ceremony isn't till after New Year's, and that's still a little over a month away. Will replied. Maybe we're just a little stressed out is all. Or maybe it really is a premonition. Jade suggested. What else did you see? She asked Heilin. Well, there was something else there. She responded. I couldn't quite make it out, but it was big. Like bigger than Cedric, and he's pretty huge. And there were its eyes. I don't know why, but just looking into those eyes made me so terrified. Whatever that thing was, it was evil. Like pure evil. All the other girls looked toward each other with concern and even a bit of worry, all silently hoping that whatever Lin saw in her dream, it was only a dream. Meridian, Phobos Castle. The Dark Prince looked with a calculating and even pained expression over his balcony toward the castletown below. At this point, it was safe to assume all the wells had been destroyed, leaving only the people with a very limited supply of drinkable water. He had done so many questionable things during his reign, but he honestly never imagined himself going this far. He silently wondered what his mother would think of this, but he knew deep down that she would be ashamed. Oh, there's no need to be so glum, Phobos. Tarakudo appeared from out of nowhere. Once you have Elion's power, you can give them all the water they need. This is a necessary sacrifice. Phobos, fists clenched, indicating he didn't like it no matter how necessary it is. All the good it will do if we don't find the rebels' hideout. Elion's coronation grows closer each day. Even if what you've told me about the Oni masks is true, with the many victories Chan and the Guardians have gained, they and the rebels could have the confidence they need to stop the ceremony. You're right to be concerned, Tarakudo said, and I've actually been giving that a bit of thought. You remember Cavergar? My most secure prison, now a pile of rubble, what of it? Phobos questioned. When our enemies attacked, only half their team came in through the front door. Tarakudo explained. The other half appeared to be already inside somehow. So, either they allowed themselves to be captured and brought inside, or they were able to find another way in. Phobos realized. They probably came in from below. Tarakudo continued. Perhaps the use of tunnels, or even an underground base. Which explains why they went so far as to destroy the prison. Phobos caught onto the Oni King's logic. It wasn't just to keep me from using it, it was to cover their tracks. Hard to dig for evidence if there's a mountain's worth of rubble piled over it. Tarakudo said with a smile. In my youth, my father once told me stories of an ancient city beneath our kingdom. But he could never find it. Phobos said. And until now, I thought it was only a myth, especially seeing how my leading warrior and my wizard, with all of my soldiers at their disposal, haven't found it yet. To be fair, Meridian is a rather large kingdom. Tarakudo commented. Thought that might also be the reason why Cedric and Wong haven't found it. They're both cunning in their own right, but they're also too forceful. Leading an army of soldiers through your kingdom makes it obvious they're looking for something. So instead, let's try something a bit more discreet. What do you have in mind? Phobos asked. Let me look for this hidden city. Tarakudo suggested. As the king of an army of monster ninjas, I know a thing or two about stealth myself. Heatherfield, Uncle's rare finds. The girls met with the rest of the Chan clan, along with Yan Lin, Caleb, and even Blanc in the Chan's family shop, as Caleb had told everyone what had been happening in Meridian. They're taking away the people's water. Toru exclaimed. Phobos has gone too far. Jackie stated with a glare and clenched fist. Right, cause kidnapping, lying, attempted murder, and helping a floating demon head bathe the world in eternal darkness, aren't far enough. Irma said with sarcasm. The people can't last without water. Caleb said. Their bravery is being tested every day they remain silent about the infinite city. Phobos has become desperate, Uncle said. Only one Oni mask remains, and Elion's ceremony is a month away. He will do everything he can to ensure victory. Yeah, and there's nothing more dangerous than a bad guy once cornered. Jade said with an unusual seriousness in her voice. Are the wells the only place the people can get water from? Will asked as she looked over a map of Meridian. What about this lake? That was their water source for years, but something got into the lake. Caleb explained. Something they call a katham. What is that? Some kind of kraken or magic shark? Alchemy asked. It's a lethal predator, but it's not like anything you've seen before. Caleb replied. I guess you could say it is the lake. Anything that tries to take water from the lake, people, animals, they get sucked into the water and they don't come out. Not even their bones float to the surface. Well, that's not dark or anything. Cornelia said as everyone looked more than a little disturbed. If this Katham is the lake itself, could it be a creature of magical nature? Jackie asked, glancing toward his uncle. Uncle will need to see creature for himself. The elder Kai wizard said. If creature is made from magic, then magic shall defeat magic. That thing sounds as scary as my dream. He Lin said. Your dream? Toru asked as he, Uncle, Jackie, and Yan Lin listened, even Blanc who appeared to have a runny nose. I was Elion and, I think it was about the coronation ceremony and, there was something else there. She recalled the dream, shivering at the thought of it. It wasn't Phobos or even Tarakudo but, it was horrible. Something pure evil, it was a nightmare. Can you describe what you saw, He Lin? Jackie asked. All I saw were a pair of glowing red eyes, and fire everywhere. She replied. It almost felt like I was being dragged down into hell itself. Yan Lin shared a glance with Uncle before she spoke to her granddaughter. You know He Lin, the air guardian often has power to anticipate others' feelings. Did you ever experience something like this, Mrs. Lin? Toru asked. A few times when I was a guardian, but my dreams were never too concrete. She replied. They were vague, which made it difficult to point out the details. Previous air guardians have had similar abilities. Uncle also explained. Some to a greater degree. If you have same gift, He Lin, then there is terrible evil approaching. We've already got Phobos and Tarakudo working together, not to mention Daolan Wong with his own plans, and that's not terribly evil enough. We'll question. What's next? We got Darth Vader or Voldemort thrown into the mix. Jade questioned irritably. When we go to Meridian tomorrow, I need to time the shifts of the castle guards, which means getting close. Caleb explained the plan before glancing at their passling ally, whose nose was still runny. Blanc can't smell anything with his cold, not even himself. Lucky him. Irma snarked. Let me guess, you want Will there to use the heart to create a portal just in case. Jackie assumed. Yeah, that's it. Caleb confirmed. Alright. Jackie nodded. Well, Jade, and I will help Caleb. Everyone else will assist Uncle in removing this Katham from the lake. Sounds like a plan, Toru said with a nod. They all heard Blanc's sniffles and saw that he was about to sneeze. He grabbed the nearest piece of paper from a wall, which just so happened to be a scroll and sneezed into it like paper, much to everyone's disgust and Uncle's shock. Iya, that scroll was worth over $200 American. The Kai wizard exclaimed. Passling must get unsick. Now. Sorry, Blanc will try fix. Blanc then began to lick the snot off of the scroll in an attempt to clean it, much to everyone's disgust. Even Terani looked like she was about to hurl. Great, now I'm feeling sick. Alchemy winced. Meridian. Night had fallen as a single rebel soldier quietly made his way through town, being extra careful not to be seen by any patrolling soldiers. He soon made it to the town's garbage dump. Taking a second to make sure he wasn't followed, he quickly went toward what appeared to be an overturned boat, and opened a secret entrance, which he used to make his way underground. However, what the rebel failed to realize was that he had been followed and spied on the entire time. A pair of eyes blinked open from a small doll in the pile of trash before the face of Tarakudo himself emerged. Certainly seems like an ideal place to hide a secret base. Tarakudo mused before he sent a small wave of his psychic powers toward the hidden entrance, but once they made contact, they were blown away by a surge of green energy that briefly shined around it. Good Kai magic. Looks like I found it. Tarakudo said aloud before using his powers to call in two certain individuals. He waited for about 6 seconds before the screams and yells of Cedric, in his giant serpent form, and Daolan Wang were both telekinetically pulled from two separate directions and crashed onto the ground in front of him. There's no need to be so down in the dumps, you two. Tarakudo joked. What do you want, Oni King? Cedric hissed in annoyance. I do not appreciate being suddenly pulled across the entire town. Oh, not much, really. Other than the fact that I've found the rebellion's hidden base. Tarakudo revealed the hidden entrance, which he struck again with his powers to show the barrier of Kai magic that kept it protected. Ah, the work of that old novice. Wang recognized the spell. Seems this is their hidden fortress. So why don't make like a good dark wizard and lift the spell so that we may be able to enter it, would you? Tarakudo requested with a smirk, causing Wang to growl before he aimed his scepter and began to cast a powerful dark Kai spell. As he chanted, his scepter glowed a strong dark blue before blasting it at the entrance. The green glow from the good Kai spell faded away, thus allowing the entrance to become open to them. Now the gate is open, but why don't you scout ahead, Cedric? Check to see if there are any traps or anything. Tarakudo told the shapeshifter. Why me? Cedric questioned. Because I told you to. Tarakudo told him before gesturing with his face toward the entrance. Realizing he couldn't defy the Oni King, Cedric gave a low growl before opening the door and entering the tunnel that led underground. Cedric soon descended down a flight of stone steps. Halfway down he saw a familiar face that appeared to be standing guard, who quickly gasped in horror upon seeing the massive shapeshifter. Hello Vathek. Cedric sneered. Acting fast, Vathek pulled down on a rope that hung from the ceiling, pulling out a support beam and caused a cave in that blocked Cedric's path, but it also left Vathek trapped with the enemy. So, the Infinite City is not a myth. Cedric said to the glaring Vathek. Time is suddenly on our side. Meanwhile, the other rebels currently in the Infinite City had heard the sound of the cave-in and quickly inspected the blocked entrance. Please tell me those onion charms are still intact. Aldarn said. They're still here. One rebel pointed to 2 rings of onions with Japanese sutras that hung along the sides of the entrance. That floating head thing won't be able to get in, and the other entrances are still hidden. This news was only bittersweet, however. With the city discovered, we've lost the element of surprise. How much food do we have? Not including all the onions, enough to last a week at least. Even if we surface through the other passages, I have nowhere in the village to hide 1,000 men. Aldarn said. We're safe for the moment, but they'll get through eventually. Then maybe we should stop hiding. Julian said as he stepped forward. It's time we take the fight to Phobos. He declared as he drew his sword. Earth. Uncle's rare finds. The next day, Will had used the heart of Kandrakar to open a portal that would lead to Meridian as the entire group of heroes stood before it. Caleb quickly stuck his head inside the portal to see that the other end hovered directly over Hugun Gorge. There's a bit of a drop. He commented. So, everyone knows the plan. Jackie reminded. Jade, Will, Caleb, and I will go to Phobos, Castle and scout, Terani, Irma, Haylin, and Cornelia. You will help Uncle and Toru dispel this Catham creature that is inhabiting the lake. Got it, Irma said as everyone else nodded. Alchemy, maybe you should stay with us. Will told her. What? But, I know Kai spells, I can help. Alchemy tried to protest. Too dangerous. Uncle shook his finger. Sensei is right. Toru agreed. You know only the basics when it comes to Kai magic, not enough to dispel a creature that's likely made from dark magic. You'll be safer with Jackie and everyone. Right, cause going to a castle owned by a psycho prince and a floating demon head is way safer than a haunted lake. Alchemy muttered in sarcasm. Will then took out the heart of Kandrakar once more and said the magic words. Guardians unite. The 6 guardians of J-Witch flew through the portal. Cornelia carried Caleb, Jade carried Jackie, Will carried Alchemy, and Haylin and Irma carried Toru before they all sat on the ground with Terani carrying a large bag over her shoulder. We know you have a choice, so thank you for flying Air Guardian. Irma joked. We hope you have a pleasant time fighting evil during your stay. Good luck with the Catham, the villagers are counting on you. Caleb told the group tasked with defeating the creature. You have everything you need. Terani opened the bag she was carrying. We got a cauldron, a whole bunch of plants, roots, and other stuff used for Kai spells, and several walkie-talkies. Why do we need walkie-talkies? Jade questioned. Can't we have Captain Black hook us up with cool Mission Impossible headsets or something? Because there are no satellites or cell service in Meridian, even cell phones won't work here. Jackie explained. Walkie-talkies are the best we have. Guess we'll have to make do. Toru said with acceptance as Terani began to hand out walkie-talkies to everyone. I don't care if it's primitive by Earth standards. Caleb said. They'll be a major help when we attack Phobos Castle. Now I know Uncle's not too big with technology, so everyone else besides him gets one. Terani said. Seriously, you don't know how to use walkie-talkies? Cornelia questioned the old Kai wizard. These things are like the simplest piece of technology known to man. Uncle is wizard, not scientist. Pay attention, he told her, causing her to sulk with annoyance. So, excluding Uncle, that would make 10 pairs total. Terani counted, but she could only count for 9. Wait, one's missing. Jackie used his walkie-talkie to try and call and find the lost one. Hello, hello. Blunk here. 10-4. They all groaned in annoyance. Blunk. Jade rubbed her hand down her face. Blunk. Where are you? Caleb questioned. Home with Mama. He has a mother. Will questioned. Don't all living creatures have moms? Alchemy responded with her own question as they even heard Blunk's mother on the other line. Need stogie root. He's sick and his mama is taking care of him. Hey Lin gushed. Why did you take the walkie-talkie? Caleb questioned. Blunk think Cancel is back scratcher. We do not have time for this. Jackie said. We'll get it back once we see him, but we have a job to do. Right, let's get going. Will agreed as the heroes split off into their respective groups. Phobos, Castle. The Dark Prince stood over his balcony as he was brought the prisoner Cedric and the others captured. Vathek, it's been a long time. Phobos sneered. How ironic that you will now be imprisoned in the very dungeons that you have guarded for so long. You won't win, Phobos. Vathek said defiantly. Even if you do defeat the rebellion and the Guardians, Meridian will never accept you as its ruler. We shall see. Take him away. Phobos ordered the guards who escorted Vathek away, leaving Phobos alone with Tarakudo, Cedric, and Daolan Wang. So, the Infinite City does exist. Excellent work, Tarakudo. Given the name, it's safe to assume there are other entrances. Tarakudo replied, but it is also highly likely that each of them is lined with a protective spell. Even the discovered one has layers of good Kai magic that prevent me from entering. Even if there are other entrances into the city, we only need one. Wang stated, I can remove the magical spells that keep us from entering, while the soldiers handle the physical labor. We've already begun that process. Cedric revealed. Several soldiers are already on their way to stomp out the rebellion once and for all. It's a little early to be taking out the victory cake, don't you think? Tarakudo commented. Their base might be discovered, but the rebels are still an active threat. We have gained a significant advantage over them, yes. But this also means that now they're the ones who are desperate, and there's nothing more dangerous than desperate people. You don't believe they are so foolish enough to openly attack my castle, do you? Phobos questioned. You'd be surprised how far desperation can take someone. Tarakudo advised with a serious look in his eyes. This expression told Phobos that this was a possibility that he couldn't afford to overlook. Very well, send half our soldiers to be ready for when he breached the Infinite City. Phobos commanded, but have the other half remain on standby here, and ready the beasts and Lurdans as well. Prepare for an attack. Infinite City. Aldarn, Julian, and Drake stood in the center of the arena where Aldarn had fought Caleb over control of the rebellion as the entire army sat and stood in the stone seats around them. All of the men and women spoke and murmured to each other with worry, and seeing how the enemy had found their hidden fortress, it wasn't hard to understand why they were so worried. Listen, everyone listen. Aldarn got their attention. We could wait, yes. But Phobos will just be more prepared to meet us, and we'll be weaker. How many men does he have out there? He asked Drake next to him. At least 5,000. Drake replied. Then we have to attack the castle. Aldarn stated. Needless to say, almost everyone in the rebellion spoke out in shock and even outrage. Attack the castle, when they weren't ready for Caleb's plan at the coronation ceremony. And without the Guardians and their allies. That sounded like a suicide mission. I know, you're all afraid, and the plan was to wait and launch a surprise attack on the day of coronation. Julius spoke aloud. But we don't have that luxury anymore. Phobos has maybe half his forces out there, so his defenses are weaker. If we attack now, while we still have the strength, we may just have a chance. Meanwhile, the group consisting of Uncle, Toru, Heilin, Cornelia, Terani, and Irma had just arrived at the large lake that supposedly contained the deadly creature inside. Well, here we are. Ready to fight a lake. Irma said. Lake not important. Creature within lake, is. Uncle said as he took out his cauldron. In order to prepare proper spell, I need sample of creature. So how do we draw it out? Terani asked. Maybe like with fishing, Heilin suggested. If we use bait, we might be able to get it out. What kind of bait do we need to draw out demon water? Cornelia questioned. Well, if this thing eats people, Irma flew out, much to everyone's surprise. Hey, Mr. Catham, She waved her arms around as she flew over the lake. Pretty girl ready to be eaten alive right here. She even went so far as to tap her right foot into the lake to further tempt the creature. However, just behind her, the water began to bubble as a tentacle of solidified water emerged with a glowing light at the end, almost like an eye, looking directly at her. Irma. Behind you. Terani warned just in time, causing Irma to fly straight up and avoid the tentacle lashing out at her. The other guardians flew over the lake as several more water tentacles emerged and tried to lash out at the guardians, who defended themselves with their respective elemental powers. This is why I drink bottled water. Cornelia muttered as she threw a series of rocks at it, breaking apart several of the tentacles. Terani tried to boil it by directing her fire control at one tentacle that shot at her, which opened up like a mouth to try and devour her, but since her attacks didn't work at first, she instead blasted a column of fire to reduce the tentacle to steam. Irma tried to use her control of water over a tentacle in front of her to try and hold it still. Okay. I got it. Good time to get a sample. I'm on it. Heylin flew in, creating an air disc in her hands to slice off the end of the tentacle and then quickly created an air sphere around it to contain the discarded limb before flying back toward the ground where Uncle was at. However, another tentacle shot out from behind Irma to hit her in the back before lashing out at Heylin. She screamed as the attack struck her and sent her crashing to the ground. The tentacle was about to reach out and devour her, but Toru quickly came to her defense with a blowfish to blast a stun spell, causing the Catham to roar out in pain as the tentacle retracted, much to Heylin's relief. Thanks, Toru. She smiled as she still held her air sphere, still containing the severed water tentacle. Any time, Toru said. It appears stun spells can work on it too. Stun spells only stun Catham, they cannot destroy it. Uncle said as he walked up with a glass vial in his hands. Heylin, sample. Right here. She held the air sphere over the vial and directed it so the discarded water tentacle of the Catham entered the vial without a single drop spilled, which Uncle was quick to close with a cork. I will do research and devise a counter spell. Uncle said as he walked toward his cauldron. But you all must keep Catham distracted until spell is prepared. Yes, sensei. Toru nodded as he held two blowfish in his hands. He and Heylin looked toward each other with nods before running to assist their friends in the fight against the Catham, which then began to emerge from the lake and take the shape of a massive colossus-like creature made entirely out of water with dozens of tentacles emerging from all around its body. Bad day, Heylin said with a gulp. Meanwhile, the entire castle town appeared to be empty as all the guards and soldiers were either called back to the castle to ready its defenses, or joined in the effort in preparing for the attack on the Infinite City, while all the civilians had boarded up their homes and dug themselves in to preserve what little food and drinking water they had left. So, for the moment, it appeared there was no activity around the city. That is until a single shed was opened up, which was revealed to be one of the many entrances to the Infinity City, and several rebel soldiers began to emerge from it. Likewise, sewer lids opened as several more soldiers came out. It wasn't long before the entire rebellion emerged in various parts around the city, carrying not only the weapons they had, but even making their way to their safe houses scattered throughout town to gather the weapons they stored there. Which included swords, shields, axes, hatchets, spears, crossbows, bows and arrows, staffs, clubs, hooks and ropes, even gardening and blacksmith tools, and whatever was handy that could be used to hurt and kill someone. Whatever weapons they couldn't carry, they loaded up onto various horse-drawn wagons which they began to pull alongside the catapults they had built and hidden in those very same safe houses as they marched. Over 1,000 men and women, which made up the entire rebellion, marched through town with one destination in mind, Phobos Castle. They knew they would be fighting an uphill battle, outnumbered against not just soldiers and guards, but whatever monstrosities their enemies had there waiting for them. Many of them might not even come back alive, but they've made peace with that. The battle they had longed for was now upon them, and it was now or never. At the same time, within the moat and beneath the roots that were just below the castle walls, Jackie, Will, Jade, Caleb, and Alchemy were in the middle of their scouting mission as Caleb observed what was going on with a pair of binoculars. There, that guy's new. So, the guards change shift every 2 hours or so. Jackie observed. Perhaps we can. Guys, Jade spoke up as she faced away from the group in the castle. We might have a problem. What? Are we spotted? Will questioned. No, but they might be. Jade pointed in the direction she was looking. Caleb used his binoculars to get a better look where he could see the entire rebellion either marching toward the castle or making their way across the moat by boat. What's going on? I thought we were supposed to attack in a month. Alchemy questioned. We're not ready. What are they doing? Caleb questioned. Something is wrong, Jackie said with a serious expression. Phobos, Wong, and Cedric had already taken notice of the army of rebels approaching them. How many? The Dark Prince questioned. At least 1,000, a guard reported. So, it would seem Tarakudo was correct. Daolan Wong commented. Desperation has pushed the rebels into attacking Phobos. They heard Elion call out as she, the Dark Kai enforcers, and Miranda made their way toward them. What's going on? Are we under attack? Sure, looks that way, Finn said as he and his friends saw the army approaching. That's a lot of guys, Ratso said with worry. You wouldn't happen to have a bunker or escape plan, would you? Chow asked nervously toward Phobos, who only narrowed his eyes at the enforcers before turning his attention toward his sister. Elion, I will handle this. But I need you to stay inside the castle, where you are safe. Phobos told her. But I can help, she protested. I'm so much stronger now and I have better control over my powers. This is not up for debate, Phobos told her, catching her off guard with his fierce tone before speaking more sincerely. Elion, you are stronger, yes, but I know how to defend my castle. Those in the rebellion believe they are fighting for a righteous cause, which makes them all the more dangerous. And I believe whoever is seeking your powers is using this to try and get close to capture you. I cannot allow that. So please, stay inside and stay safe. Miranda and your guards will protect you. Miranda placed her hand around Elion's before she spoke as well. Your brother knows what he's doing, let's just let him handle this. With a reluctant sigh, the princess seemed to accept her Phobos request. Alright, just be careful. I don't want anything to happen to you either. Phobos smiled as he lightly patted her head and gestured for her to go, which she did with Miranda close behind her. He then glared directly at the enforcers. Nobody touches her. Understood. Why, yes sir, Chow said as he and his friends stood straight. No problem, Big P. Finn added. Yeah, kid will be safe with us. Ratso said sincerely as they quickly caught up to Elion. Once they were gone, Tarakudo appeared before the villainous trio. See, what did I tell you? Desperate times call for desperate measures. Phobos smirked. Tell me Tarakudo, have you seen anything like this during your reign? Oh yes, Tarakudo replied with a reminiscent smile. I still remember the sounds of those blood-curdling screams. Desperate warriors making their final stand against my Oni generals and their shadow minions. It was quite a show, and I'm certain this will be just as entertaining. Indeed, Phobos agreed. We will end this war tonight. It wasn't long before all of Phobos' forces mobilized and prepared to meet the approaching rebellion. There were at least 5,000 soldiers and lurdans, and several hundred different beasts, including more gargoyle creatures that marched out. It wouldn't be long before the two forces clashed. This isn't good. We're outnumbered, Caleb stated as he and his group tried to get closer. Can we communicate with the others? I don't think the heart of Kandrakar can do that, Will replied as she held the crystal in her hands to see the rest of her team were currently occupied with the Katham. So, let's just use the walkie-talkies, Jade suggested. We're too far away. We're out of range, Jackie stated as he held his own walkie-talkie. They suddenly heard a familiar sneeze and turned toward the side to see none other than Blanc, who appeared to be searching the water for something. Stogie Root, the pasling searched the water with his runny nose. Blanc, Alchemy exclaimed, getting his attention. We need your help. Do you still have your back scratcher? The pasling took out his walkie-talkie. Yes. Here. Good. Jackie then began to instruct Blanc. We need the rest of the team. Go straight west and keep calling them with the walkie-talkie. When they reply, tell them there is an emergency. Blanc saluted and ran with the walkie-talkie straight west. The group then looked to see the battle had already begun as the opposing forces clashed. Even with the rest of W.I.T.C.H, we're going to need some serious firepower to blow through that many bad guys, Jade stated. Jade, you're right, Jackie nodded before turning to the redhead. Will, can you open a portal to section 13? Yeah, you got it. We'll use the heart of Kandrakar to open a portal back to Earth that would lead to the government facility. Alchemy, go to Captain Black and tell him what is going on. Jackie told the only non-Guardian girl present. We will need as much help as we can get. On it, she said before running into the portal. In the meantime, we have to help the rebellion as much as we can. Jackie stated to Will, Caleb, and Jade. Looks like we're storming the castle after all. Jade stated as she generated a shadow katana in her hand before she and her friends rushed in to help the rebellion. Already it had erupted into a full-scale war as soldier fought soldier and/or monster in all directions. All around the moat, on the massive roots that circled around the castle, and on the ground. Metal clashed with metal as sword struck shield. Bows were launched and spears were thrown. Horseback riders of the rebellion cut down the enemy forces that were near them, only to meet the castle guards on rhino-like steeds or get attacked by larger monsters such as Lurdans. Flying monsters came down with their claws to tear whatever they could to shreds, and even met the rebels that used their gliders to try and push forward. Caleb made his way through the war zone, cutting down any enemy he saw with his katana before he spotted his brother in arms Aldarn just as a volley of enemy arrows was launched. Aldarn and the soldiers near him raised their shields to protect themselves. What happened? Phobos found the infinite city. We had to attack. Seeing no way to turn back now, Caleb simply joined his fellow soldiers in the battle. That is until something landed hard in front of him and Aldarn with enough force that it created a small explosion on impact and sent them both, and several rebels, flying backwards. What was that? Aldarn questioned as they tried to pull themselves up, only to look in shock, or horror, in Caleb's case as a familiar silhouette was seen from the clearing smoke. It is Death, who has come to claim his prize. The dark Kai form of Hawk Fu stood tall as he cracked his knuckles menacingly. Bad day, Caleb said with worry. Section 13. Captain Black appeared to be working with a few agents at one of the consoles. Run a background check in. Suddenly a portal opened up right behind him, catching him off guard. But he was even greater surprised to see Alchemy running out of it, a panicked look on her face. Whoa, Alchemy, what happened? We need backup, Captain Black. Lots of it, the girl exclaimed. Meridian, Lake, dried powder of newt. Uncle added an ingredient to his cauldron before looking closely at the contents of the spell he was making, trying to figure out the next ingredient, seemingly oblivious to the noisy battle that was going on behind him. Toru ran around the side of the lake's shore, blasting stun spells from his dual blowfish at the Catham. Though these did appear to cause it pain, it only served to anger the creature as it shot several of its tentacles at Toru. Fortunately, Cornelia was able to fly in and raise a large rock wall to block the Catham's attack. Terani, Heylin, and Irma all flew in to try and keep the Catham pinned by blasting it with their respective elemental attacks. A constant column of flame from Terani, a whirlwind from Heylin, and a stream of raging waters from Irma. However, the Catham shot out more of its tentacles and spun its body around to force the three Guardian girls back. Hey uncle. Anytime you wanna have that spell ready. We're kinda doing our best not to die out here. Cornelia called to him. Iya, spell not ready. Uncle exclaimed. Necessary ingredients are present, and spell can be prepared, but we are missing one key factor. What? Irma shouted as she tried to dodge another tentacle before slicing it off with a blade of water. The Catham is energy. Energy must defeat energy. Uncle stated. Uncle does not have necessary amount of raw power for spell. How much power do we need, sensei? Toru called out as he slid along his side to blast the Catham's body with more stun spells. Lightning. We need energy as powerful as lightning. Uncle exclaimed. That got Terani's attention. Wait, lightning. We can manage that. Ice crystals and rising clouds get negatively charged. If we can direct the lightning at the Catham, will that do the job? Yes. Uncle confirmed as he took out two dried lizards and dipped them both in his spell. He handed one of them to Cornelia before calling out to his apprentice, Toru, get to other side of lake and prepare to chant spell. But do not chant until lightning strikes. Yes, sensei. Toru nodded as he ran around the lake with Cornelia flying to hand him a dried lizard while also keeping him covered from the Catham's attacks. Irma, Heylin, follow my lead. Terani told her friends as they combined their powers into a swirling stream of fire, water, and wind, which shot through the Catham's liquid body and further up into the sky. Already dark clouds began to form as lightning cracked across the sky. Phobos, Castle. The battle continued to rage as the rebels fought with everything they had. But with the vast numbers in Phobos' army, the long-range weapons at the castle like bows and arrows, and catapults with large boulders, as well as the massive monsters that were also present, it was a losing battle, even with the heroes providing a helping hand. Jade used her shadow katana to cut down one massive root and send it toppling over a group of soldiers and monsters. "This ain't a sightseeing trip. Keep going," Jade told the rebels as they pushed forward. She was however attacked by a pterodactyl-like creature from the sky as it caught her in its claws. "Hey, back off Dino boy." Jade generated a shadow spear in her hand and jammed it into its side, forcing it to let go before she coated both her fists in shadow magic to generate a large sphere, which she used to smash its head in and send it crashing to the ground. Jackie was also on the ground, doing his best to dodge each weapon sliced toward him before grabbing a pair of discarded shields to block the swords and spears lunged at him. He ducked before leaping over into a group of soldiers to land on his hands and spread his feet out for a spinning kick to knock them all down before getting back up again. A larvic was about to lunge at him, but Jackie threw one of his shields toward its eye to knock it off balance, allowing him to run up its body and leap toward its other eye to smash his other shield into it, blinding it before kicking it down and sending it crashing into a group of enemy soldiers. Will flew toward a gargoyle-like creature and kicked it in the face to knock it off the root it was standing on and into the moat below. She then flew down to take on a group of soldiers, using every kung fu trick she learned from Jackie to dodge each weapon sliced at her before lashing out with a roundhouse kick, a chop to their chests, a punch to the face, and every attack she could think of to knock them all down. Caleb and Aldarn both yelled as they swung their respective swords toward Hawk Fu, but he easily caught them in his hands before attacking. Tornado decimates Trailer Park. He spun his body around rapidly, generating a twister around him, while pulling Caleb and Aldarn along for the ride. They were both sent flying toward a rebel catapult and Barley had enough time to recover before Hawk Fu attacked again. Raging Bull obliterates Stick House. He ran at such speed that he generated a blue fireball around him straight toward the catapult. Caleb and Aldarn were barely able to dodge out of the way in time as Hawk Fu blasted the wooden weapon to splinters upon impact. The Dark Kai warrior them slowly loomed his way toward the downed Caleb. Black Dragon corners helpless knight. Caleb. Aldarn called to him to try and warn him, but Hawk Fu was already over him, raising his foot to crush his skull in. Boom. Asterisk. A rocket was blasted at Hawk Fu point blank, blowing him up and causing the Dark Kai warrior to poof away, much to Caleb's surprise, who looked in even greater surprise to see a familiar face offering him a hand up. "You look like you need some help." Captain Black smiled, holding a rocket launcher in his hand. Captain Black. Caleb accepted his hand as he was pulled up. "You got our message." "I did," Black said with a smile. "So, you brought reinforcements." Caleb hoped. "And then some." Captain Black gestured to the portal that Will had previously created as it suddenly grew larger, almost 10 times its original size, and allowed more than 24 heavily armed Section 13 vehicles to pour through and onto the battlefield. These included armored Humvees and troop transports, full-fledged tanks, and even transports that carried massive laser-like cannons attached to it. Even a dozen helicopters entered the fray. "Attention all units." Captain Black got on his radio. "Provide as much backup for the rebels as you can. Shoot anything that doesn't look even remotely human. Choppers, provide air support and clear the skies. Heavy artillery mounts up from the rear, clear a path directly to the castle." Following their captain's orders, the forces of Section 13 provided aid for the rebels. All the Humvees and troop transports pushed their way to the front lines, running down any monsters that tried to stop them. When they had to get on foot, the vehicles came to a stop as the human soldiers and agents piled out. "Let's go. Move it. Double time." They all stepped out and opened fire with their rifles and guns, tearing down any guard, Lurden, Larvic, and anything else that was attacking the rebels. One group of rebels led by Drake found themselves cornered against a gargoyle monster, but a series of rockets were shot at its face, blowing off its rock-like head and killing it in the process. Drake looked toward a Section 13 agent in surprise, the later smiled and offered him a hand, which he took with a smile of his own. Helicopters flew across the sky as they opened fire with their missiles towards the catapults to obliterate the long-range weapons near the castle, while gunmen on the sides opened fire to shoot down all the flying monsters that tried to tear at them with their talons. Tanks and laser cannons remained near the rear as they fired at the castle directly, shaking much of it to its foundation and causing all the archers and long-range weapons along the wall to lose their balance and even fall off. Already, it seemed like the tide has turned in the rebellion's favor. Jackie, Will, and Jade regrouped with Captain Black and Caleb. "Damn, you really know how to bring the cavalry, Cap," Jade said with an impressed smirk. "Thank you so much, Augustus," Jackie said sincerely. "I know this is technically outside your jurisdiction, another world, and it's not your war, but it's all right, old friend," Captain Black assured. "We're law enforcement, remember? We help those who can't help themselves. And we sure need that." "Thank you." Caleb lowered his head in thanks. "Where's Alchemy? Is she with you?" Will asked. "She's staying behind in Section 13. Captain Black replied. "A war zone like this is no place for a kid, at least one who doesn't have any magic powers." "That's good." Will breathed a sigh of relief. "So, what's the plan?" "Should be simple," Captain Black answered. "Take down the enemy commander, and their forces won't be able to coordinate anymore." "Phobos," Jackie said with a serious expression. "All right, Jade and I will help Jackie get to the castle and take down Phobos and his goon squad." Will began. "Captain Black, can you and the rest of your men help the rebels?" "Consider it done." Captain Black nodded as he loaded his pistol, his rocket launcher slung over his back. "Look at you giving orders, fearless leader." Jade smirked and playfully nudged her best friend, who replied with a chuckle of her own. "Let's go," Jackie said as Will grabbed him by his shoulders and flew straight toward the castle alongside Jade, leaving Captain Black and Caleb together. "Think you can keep up, kid?" Black said with a smirk. "Can you, old man?" Caleb smirked back as he drew his katana once again and they both joined the fray. Meanwhile, at the top of the wall, Phobos had to steady himself to keep himself from tipping over as the entire castle shook. He, along with Tarakudo, Cedric, and Wong looked below to see just how quickly the tide turned against him as the combined forces of the rebellion in Section 13 pushed through his own. "What in the name of Meridian is happening here?" Phobos exclaimed. "How could the tide of war quickly change? Those aren't just rebels down there," Cedric said as he recognized some of this technology. "They are forces of Earth." "It would seem so," Tarakudo agreed. "Section 13, they're allies of Chan and the Guardians. Strong ones at that. But how could they have crossed the veil?" Wong questioned. "What are the odds a portal would open here and now? You losers got other things to worry about." They heard Jade's voice call out as Jade flew in at top speeds, still carrying her uncle, before she let go, causing Jackie to fall at the same kind of speed as he shot his foot out, scoring a direct hit on Phobos with a flying kick that sent both of them off the wall and into a courtyard below. Before the either villains could respond, Jade generated a set of shadow claws around her hands to slash at Tarakudo's face and knock him back, while Will also came in to sweep her feet and knock Cedric and Daolon Wong off their feet before the two guardians came back to back. "Oh, what's the matter, boys?" Will mocked. "Don't like losing. Too bad, cause you're both about to get a face full of it." Jade finished as the villains recovered, Tarakudo and Wong growling while Cedric transformed into his massive serpent form. In the courtyard, Jackie had recovered from his landing and stood on his feet to shake the sense of dizziness from his head. Those kinds of movies make it look so easy. His attention was then caught by a blast of magic, which he quickly leapt to avoid before facing the raging Phobos, magic surging from both his hands. "Chan, you have interfered with me for the last time," Phobos exclaimed. "The way you treat your people is despicable and inhumane," Jackie told him with a glare. "And I will not let you cause them suffering any further. Any action I take, no matter how cruel, is for my kingdom's benefit." Phobos argued. "You can call me evil all you wish, but it is a necessary evil. Just as necessary as your immediate destruction." He blasted another wave of magic at Jackie, who backflipped to avoid the attack. Back at the lake, lightning continued to crack through the sky as Irma, Terani, and Heilin continued to press their elements through the Katham, while Uncle and Toru were in position. "When you hear the word, get the spell going," Cornelia told Toru before she shot into the air, higher than the Catham could reach, getting close to the clouds. A few seconds later, she felt her hair stand on end, the static already buzzing through her hair. It was coming. Now, she exclaimed, flying out of the way just in time as the lightning bolt struck the Catham, and the other girls flew away. Immediately, Uncle and Toru began to recite the spell. Yumo Gui Gui Fi Di Zhao. 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 As they chanted, large bolts of green Kai magic shot from their respective lizards and into the Catham. The lightning that surged through the creature made contact with the spell immediately, giving it the boost in energy the spell needed. Instantly, the entire Catham began to glow a bright green as the Kai magic began to surge through, the creature bubbling and boiling before it expanded like a sphere until it couldn't handle the power and finally exploded in a bright flash of green light. The Guardians and Kai wizards covered their eyes to avert the blinding flash of light. When the flash subsided, what was left of the Catham had evaporated into steam as the dark magic was purged from the lake, returning it to normal. Cornelia and Terani flew down to pick up Toru and carry him to the other side where Uncle, Irma, and Heilin were waiting. "Is that it? Did we do it?" Toru asked. "Catham has been defeated." Uncle nodded with approval. "All is right again. Mission accomplished," Irma said as she shared a high five with the other girls as well as Toru. "Girls, girls," they heard Blunk's voice over the walkie-talkies from the bag that contained them. Terani was quick to answer. "Blunk, Caleb told you not to play with this stuff," she told him. "No play." Blunk practically screamed over the other end, forcing Terani to wince away from the loud voice that banged against her ear. "Emergency. Big fight at castle. Come quick. Looks like our job's not done yet," Terani told the group as she and Cornelia picked up Toru again with Heilin grabbing onto Uncle before they and Irma flew off toward Phobos Castle. Blunk breathed a sigh of relief. He had been running for quite some time, but he was glad to have finally got through to the others. There wasn't much for him to do at this point then, other than, his eyes set upon a certain herb, the very kind that he and his mother had been looking for. Ah, stogie root. He picked up some of the root and ate it, but instantly spat it out, it tasted so bad. Better sick. The war continued to rage around the castle. The combined forces of Section 13 and the rebellion seemed to push past the rest of Phobos' own forces, making their way closer toward the castle. Despite the losses they suffered early on in this battle, the rebellion had more manpower, while Section 13 had all the heavy artillery, which was enough to overwhelm most of the enemy army of guards and monsters that continued to fight them off. Already they made their way toward the castle walls and began to use hooks and ropes, along with grapplers to climb the walls while the helicopters in the area kept them covered from the air. The sounds of battle had reached Elion's room as the Dark Kai enforcers looked with fear clearly evident on their faces. "Holy crap," Chow commented. "This is insane." "No kidding," Ratso agreed. "When I signed up with Valmont, I never expected it would lead this. It's a freaking war out there." Finn added. "How are we supposed to?" The trio's attention was caught by an ominous feeling from behind them. They glanced towards Elion as a powerful magic aura began to surge around her. Hey, take it easy kiddo," Chow tried to tell her as the enforcers slowly and cautiously made their way toward her. "Yeah, why don't you sit down?" Ratso offered. "This is my home," Elion said in a low growl. "Look little E, things are pretty crazy out there and you don't wanna." Finn tried to speak to her, but she was already hovering in the air, her eyes glowing brightly with the aura around her. Elion. Back outside, Will and Jade continued their battle against Cedric, Daolan Wang, and Tarakudo. The Oni King blasting a psychic wave at the pair, but Jade was quick to block it with a wall of shadow magic before shooting several shadow spikes toward him, forcing Tarakudo to fly back and avoid it. Cedric attempted to get the jump on her from behind, but Will flew directly up to his face to deal a cartwheel kick, allowing Jade to fly past him and throw a set of shadow whips around his neck before hauling him down to the ground. Daolan Wang attempted to blast Jade with his Dark Kai magic from his scepter, but Jade blocked it once again with a wall of shadow magic, allowing Will to fly past her and deal a punch to his face to knock him down. Meanwhile, in the courtyard below, Jackie ran and dodged all the blasts of magic that Phobos threw his way, trying to get closer to Phobos while expertly dodging each attack. He was able to get close enough as Phobos prepared the next blast, only for Jackie to grab him by the wrist and forcing him to shoot away before kicking him in the chest to knock him back. Phobos recovered with a glare as he materialized a blade in his hand, moving in close to Jackie to hack and slash at him, but Jackie proved quick and nimble in close quarters combat to avoid each slash, striking at Phobos' wrist to parry him and avoid getting sliced before leaping over him to sweep his feet and knock Phobos down. As he was down, however, Phobos blasted a point-blank wave of magic at Jackie to send him rolling across the ground. As Jackie attempted to recover, Phobos began to hover over him with deadly intent. "I have had enough of you, Jackie Chan." Suddenly, he was blasted by a stun spell, which knocked him down onto the ground. "And Uncle has had enough of you, foolish prince," Uncle said as Hei Lin brought him onto the scene. "Jackie, are you okay?" Hei Lin called out. "Yes, thank you," Jackie said with a smile. Back with Will and Jade, the latter had slashed Tarakudo across the face with a shadow katana before blasting him away from the castle with a surge of shadow flames. She and Will prepared to square off against Cedric and Wong, only to be pelted by blasts of fire and water, distracting them enough for the ground beneath them to shake and crumble apart, causing them to fall off the castle walls and down to the moat below. "Thanks guys, not that we needed the help." Jade smirked as Irma, Terani, and Cornelia flew in, the latter two carrying Toru before setting him down with them. "How in the hell did this happen?" Irma questioned. "I thought the attack wasn't till the coronation." "We'll explain later," Will said as Hei Lin helped Jackie and Uncle to the top as well. "We need to help the rebels and Section 13 to the top." But it seemed they had it covered for the most part, as several dozen rebels, almost 100 total, along with several Section 13 agents have managed to breach the outer walls and enter the castle grounds, including Caleb and Captain Black as they continued to fight off the guards and monsters. "Keep pushing. We're almost inside," Caleb told everyone. "No." They all heard Elion's voice boom through the air as she hovered over all of them. "You will not enter my castle and ruin my home." Almost all the fighting inside the castle came to a halt, but not the conflicts outside, as they could not see the hovering princess. The Guardians and Chan clan saw her as well as Cornelia tried to fly in and reason with her. "Elion, wait please. Look, I know you think we're being brainwashed, but we're not. The rebels are the good guys. I know this is all pretty crazy, but you have to." "No," Elion exclaimed again as she sent Cornelia back with a wave of magic. "This fighting ends now." She hovered past the castle to see the rest of the chaos and conflict that was occurring past the castle walls. She saw scores of bodies scattered everywhere, and neither side showed any signs of slowing down. All this fighting and bloodshed made her own blood boil even further. Enough. Elion channeled all her power as she was engulfed in a bright and powerful surge raw magic before massive pillars of the same energy shot down into the lakebed below and up into the sky. All the fighting stopped as everyone looked in mixtures of awe and fear. Even her own friends, the Guardians, Chan clan, and all their allies had similar expressions. "Whoa Nelly," Captain Black uttered. The insane surge of power could be seen from miles around the castle, and even drew the attention of the recovering Phobos, Wong, and Cedric from their respective locations. "Elion," Phobos muttered at seeing his sister like this. Even the Dark Kai enforcers' jaws dropped at the sight of that. The light soon changed into a dome of magic that began to grow and encompass the grounds around the castle and even the castle itself. Suddenly, countless massive roots and plant tendrils emerged from the ground to ensnare almost every single person and monster down below, even agents of Section 13. Vehicles and larger weapons were tipped over and ripped apart by the tendrils. It was almost as if Elion was controlling the will of Meridian's own nature to stop this battle. This insane demonstration of power was observed by Tarakudo from a safe distance as he merely smirked in amusement. "Cute. Captain Black, Caleb, we have to leave now," Jackie tried to tell them as they attempted to regroup. "He's right," Will agreed. Captain Black immediately took out his communicator. "All units retreat. We're falling back now." Even Caleb silently admitted it was time to leave, cursing himself in the process. Earth, Heatherfield. It was an absolute mess trying to escape from what had happened at Phobos Castle. Nearly everybody they knew was captured, be they rebels or Section 13 agents. The Chan clan and Guardians were just barely able to escape with the use of a portal via the heart of Kandrakar. However, Captain Black ended up getting captured himself as he tried to cover their escape. Currently, the group of heroes, including Alchemy, sat at and around a bench in the park contemplating the fiasco they just escaped from. Whoa, Alchemy said upon being told what happened. Elion really did all that. I figured she was powerful and all, but I didn't think she was that powerful. Jade stated. She, honestly kinda terrified me. Hey, at least the villagers have water now. We'll try to find some kind of silver lining. You guys did a great job. Despite that real victory, none of them felt like celebrating. Caleb, how bad is it? Terani asked the young rebel leader. Caleb sighed before answering. At least 2 or even 300 men and women lost their lives in that fight. Over 100 were captured, including your men from Section 13, everyone else ended up getting scattered. They'll go into hiding, but all the heads of the rebellion were taken, including Aldarn, Drake, and even my father. Elion even captured some of those monster things too. Cornelia added. She doesn't even know they're on Phobos' side. Looks his lies were pretty convincing. Captain Black was also taken. Toru said with a glum expression. Jackie sighed as he placed his hand on his face in shame. I should never have involved him in that. Hey, we'll find a way to get him back. Irma said, placing a hand on Jackie's shoulder. We'll get everyone back. This thing ain't over yet. Elion's powers will only continue to grow as her coronation draws near. Uncle said. Phobos and Tarakudo will be that much determined to keep her away from us. It will only be harder from now on. But I don't think it's just them anymore. Hey, Lin said, getting everyone's attention. She held her own sides as she shook slightly, vividly remembering the flames and the unrecognizable monster that emerged from them. I had the dream again last night. I still don't know what exactly it was, but I've just got this feeling that as horrible as Phobos and Tarakudo both are, something worse is coming. And it's the end of part 18 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.